Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, insane Karen gets rid of my cat, gets taught a lesson. I'm at the vet's waiting room with my cat as I'm writing this. So let me share a bit of my situation. I'm a 35-year-old woman, and I've been with my 45-year-old fiance for 3 years. He has 2 kids, a 22-year-old daughter who's a lovely girl, and another daughter who's 19. For the sake of this post, we'll call her Kim. Kim has always had a bad attitude, especially towards me. Now, before anyone assumes anything, my fiance was already divorced 2 years before we met, and his ex is a nice person whom I get along with very well. So there's no animosity from her end either. Currently, Kim is 3 months pregnant and living with us because we have more space to accommodate her and the baby. The baby daddy stays over sometimes, but he's juggling 2 jobs and studies, so I end up taking care of Kim most of the time. Today, the main issue arose when Kim's boyfriend came over. My fiance suggested we give them some privacy and go for a walk. When I returned home after a couple of hours, I noticed my cat was missing. Kim has never liked my cat and even wanted me to get rid of him. She claimed he ran out the door, but I knew that wasn't true. Whiskey, my elderly cat, wouldn't venture outside on his own. I checked the security camera and, as expected, I saw Kim throwing Whiskey out to run him off. I was devastated and couldn't hold back my emotions. I confronted Kim and told her she had 1 hour to find my cat, or I'd throw out all of her belongings in the dumpster and I would no longer be taking care of her. She retorted, saying she wasn't going to search for my stupid cat and asked me to back off, citing her pregnancy. My fiance tried to intervene and asked me to calm down, saying we would look for the cat together. I refused, determined to find my cat alone, and made it clear that if I returned and Kim was still there, I'd leave, and my fiance could go with her too because I was fed up with dealing with his difficult daughter. I didn't wait for their response, and although I could hear her crying, I went on to search for Whiskey. Fortunately, I found him hiding in some bushes after what felt like an eternity. When I returned home, they were both in the living room. My fiance wanted to talk, but he insisted that I owed Kim an apology. I refused and told him to go to heck while demanding Kim start packing her things. As far as I know, she's currently staying with her boyfriend's family, and my fiance isn't speaking to me. Update. Surprisingly, my now ex-fiance's oldest daughter, whom I'll call Kate, reached out to me to hear my side of the story. She's an animal lover like myself and sensed something was off. My ex-fiance had spun a story about me having a breakdown over the cat and going off on Kim for not trying to catch him due to her condition. Kate is sharp and she knows her sister well, so she called Kim to get her side of the story. Kim was more honest with Kate, admitting that she and her dad had planned to get rid of my cat. Her baby daddy refused to do it, leading to an argument, and Kim lazily kicked Whiskey out of the yard. Kate also told me that Kim has been speaking negatively about me and Whiskey, and she fears that Kim might take some revenge on him in the future. After hearing all this, I decided to listen to Kate, my friends, the vet's assistant, and everyone here. I called off the wedding, which was just a few weeks away, and I broke up with my ex-fiance via text. Frankly, I don't care if it's immature or cruel. I told him I'd pack up his stuff for him to collect in a few days. The begging and empty promises have already started, but I'm determined to stand my ground. I'm done being an ATM and a slave for my ex-fiance and his spoiled daughter Kim. As for Whiskey, he's doing fine. He was a bit shaken up by the incident, but he's currently curled up in my lap, refusing to move. Not the jerk. As a cat owner, I salute you. I mean, yeah, you might lose the relationship over this, but from the sounds of it, if this doesn't do it, something else likely will. Not the jerk. Pregnancy hormones do not cause you to treat pets like this. That's just vicious entitlement and meanness. You do not owe her an apology. She should be begging for your forgiveness, and so should your ex. I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and I just found out my fiance has been helping her sister hide her secret affair. My fiance, Sarah, who's 28, and me, 34 male, have known each other for about 6 years, engaged for 1. Our wedding is scheduled to take place in just 2 weeks, and I just witnessed something that is making me feel like I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. Tonight, Sarah and I were taking a rare opportunity to relax at home. Sarah was in the kitchen making dinner while I was out back working on one of my projects. We live on acreage, and I'm building a fire pit in the backyard that we're planning on using this fall. Anyway, as you do when you're doing heavy labor, I get thirsty and come back to the house to get a drink, where I hear Sarah at the counter preparing dinner and talking on speakerphone. I recognize the voice instantly as my brother-in-law, Marty. Now, this is where my brain gets totally twisted. Marty asks Sarah where her sister Evelyn is at. He says he's been trying to get in contact with her and she's not answering texts, and I hear Sarah say to him, "She just left here. She should be home in half an hour or so." It should be noted that Evelyn is Marty's wife of 5 years. I have to admit that I didn't immediately register what she had just said, because I went into the kitchen and grabbed a glass and asked Sarah, "What was that all about?" And she responds with, "Marty was looking for Evie." I see her texting and I ask her, "What are you doing?" And she says, "I'm texting Evie that Marty was looking for her." Anyway, I pour myself a drink, sit down, have a sip, and then finally my brain starts to work. First off, I heard Sarah tell Marty that Evelyn was here. Evelyn was not here, and the last time we saw her was yesterday when she came over to work on some last-minute wedding decorations with Sarah. Secondly, why is she texting Evelyn and expecting a response when I distinctly heard Marty say that Evelyn wasn't answering texts? Lastly, why would she tell Marty that Evelyn should be back in 30 minutes unless she either knows where she is, then why did she lie? Or she's right now in front of me texting her, telling her to get home quickly. The only conclusion that I came up with is that Sarah is lying to Marty about the whereabouts of her sister, Marty's wife, and is probably warning Evie that Marty will expect her home in half an hour. I then spent probably the next 5 hours concocting various explanations for this behavior, some decent, some downright horrible, and playing them back in my head. I wanted really badly to ask Sarah about this, but at the same time, if what I think is going on, then I doubted I'd get a straight answer. Which brings me to about an hour ago. I woke up around 1 a.m. to use the bathroom, and I couldn't resist the urge to check Sarah's phone. We both know each other's pins, so this wasn't a difficult thing to do. Anyway, I grabbed the phone, retreated to the bathroom, and unlocked it, and yup, it was exactly what I was afraid of, and probably what most of you were expecting. Sarah's sister Evelyn has been having an affair for about 6 months with a coworker, and Sarah has been helping Evelyn to cover it up for almost that entire time. There are literally hundreds of texts between them discussing it, discussing the coworker, discussing her hooking up with him, really embarrassing things about my brother-in-law, and probably uncharitable. Just stuff that makes my stomach churn. And here's my soon-to-be wife going along with all of it without batting an eye. I took some screenshots of the entire thread, put the phone back where I found it, and then retreated to my home office to find myself here typing it all out on Reddit, simply so I can avoid the primal scream that wants to come out of my mouth right now. I'm totally done for, Reddit. I cannot marry Sarah. I just can't do it. I can't think of any reasonable excuse she could offer me about assisting her sister in this affair and victimizing not only Marty, but their family as well. On the other hand, myself, my family, Sarah, and her family have all sunk an enormous amount of money into a wedding that's supposed to happen in 2 weeks. There's no way that we're getting any of that money back. On top of that, I feel like an absolute fool. Like, how did I not know this woman was like this? And what am I going to do? I can't marry her. I just can't. However, I still want to. She's beautiful and fun and kind, and I thought we had a bright future ahead of us. She's never done anything wrong to me, but I just can't unsee this now. It's like a giant stain on an otherwise beautiful picture. I just don't know how I got into this, and I'm just dreading doing what I know I need to do. I feel like I want to throw up or break something. Edit. Guys, you don't need to convince me to not marry Sarah. That's obvious. The wedding is off. I'm just trying to figure out my next steps and work up the nerve to do it. There's an incredible amount of pressure on me from the expectations of everyone, but I'm not going to buckle under it. I'm not relishing having to deal with the fallout, and I'm more than a little angry that I'm in this situation. Edit 2. It's 5 a.m. I have work in 3 hours, and I'm running off a couple hours of sleep. I'm gonna take a shower and head into work early to avoid Sarah and stew on this. I got to work around 7. No one was in the office, so I decided to start pulling off the band-aid and I called my brother. He lives in Australia, so he was up after having just put his kids to sleep. It was hard breaking the news to him about this because I know he has laid out a huge amount of money for flights for him and his family to come to the wedding. But to his credit, as an older brother, he didn't mention it even once and just backed me up. He made a great point too. He said, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, "You work in a job where you have to deal with liars and scammers day in and day out. I don't blame you for wanting to have somewhere to go where that's not a concern." He was totally right about that, and I get now why I'm reacting so strongly to Sarah's participation in this deceit. He also had a great idea. He was going to take his family down to Florida to do some sightseeing and visit the parks. Well, now the kids will be accompanied by their uncle as well. It should be easy since we were going to honeymoon there as well, and we were planning on meeting them for a bit anyway. I'll just rebook everything to be closer to him and his family, and I'll offer Sarah's ticket to either my sister or another family member. Edit 5. Got to Marty's house a little after 10 a.m. He had just put his daughter down for a nap, and we had a long, frankly brutal talk in the kitchen. Basically, he suspected this for a couple of months now, but Evelyn has been very good at covering her tracks, obviously with the assistance of Sarah and a couple of their mutual friends. I unfortunately do not have all 6 months of the text messages, just a couple dozen screenshots I sent to myself from Sarah's phone. But I gave him what I have and offered to help him however I could. I work in insurance, specializing in workers' compensation fraud, so I know a few things and a few people. Anyway, I'm now working from my laptop in his kitchen, trying to salvage whatever I can. I'm going to have to talk to Sarah this evening and get the word out as fast as I can to my friends and family that I know won't do Marty over. So far, I managed to rebook most of the honeymoon. Also, I do not hate Sarah. I don't approve of what she did. I frankly find it repulsive, and I'm shocked by uncovering how two-faced she can be and how she treats people, but I don't hate her. I'm just incredibly sad about everything, and the "I'm done for" part of my post is really the short time frame I have to work under. Basically, our relationship is in a state where I cannot get married to her. Update. Marty asked for my help in finding out who the other guy was that Evelyn was cheating on him with. All we had to go on was a name. Let's call him Jake. The first thing I did was basically just go through LinkedIn trying to find the guy through Evelyn's connections, but that brought up nothing, which I thought was strange. Marty had told me that Evelyn was supposed to go out for drinks tonight after work, and that she said she wouldn't be home until around 9 or 10. He didn't have to tell me what he suspected, since I pretty much understood right away. I told him that I would help him, but he needed to come with me. I then contacted my buddy Mark, explained the situation to him, and had him agree to meet us later in the day. The first thing we did was drive over to Marty's parents' house so they could watch their granddaughter. I don't know what Marty told them as I waited in the car. After that, we went to Evelyn's place of work. It's one of those large commercial strip malls. We drove around until we found Evelyn's car, and then I had Marty unlock it with a second set of keys. I then gave Marty a voice-activated recorder and a GPS tracker to place in the car. Once we were done with that, we left, parked a bit down the street, and waited for my friend to arrive and for Evelyn to leave the business. Mark shows up about 20 minutes later, hops in the car with us, and around an hour later, Evelyn comes out of her office with 2 of her girlfriends and a tall, younger-looking man with sandy blonde hair. They're obviously holding hands, and I'm like, dang, Evelyn, you're making it too easy for me. I take a couple of pictures from the car and then wait for Evelyn to leave in hers, and I start tracking her. At first, I thought she might go right to a hotel or something, but she didn't. Instead, she drove to a reasonably nice bar and grill in a nice section of town and parked on the street. I drove by her as she was getting out of her car and entering the establishment, and then found my own parking spot and went over the plan. First, we sent Mark in, since no one knew him. He had basically 2 jobs: to try and get any compromising pictures he could of Evelyn and Jake, and second, to be my alibi. Marty and I waited in the car for around 20 minutes until I got the first in the series of text messages from Mark. They were pictures of Evelyn and Jake making out in front of their 2 female coworkers. Marty's suspicions were right. They had been helping Evelyn hide the affair from him. He was obviously very upset and angry. Evidently, one of the coworkers is married, and as a couple, they are good friends with Marty and Evelyn. Both of them even have kids around the same age. I asked Marty if that's enough for him, but he says he still really wants to know who the guy is. I try to tell him that we can find out later, but he's practically begging me at this point, so I tell him to wait, text Mark that I'm coming in, and then enter the bar myself. First thing I see is Evelyn and her crew laughing and drinking at one of those tall round tables. I stop for a moment, pretend to be surprised, and then call out to Evelyn. Evelyn, hi, what are you doing here? She's obviously shocked to see me, and everyone around her tenses up immediately. Evelyn quickly introduces me as her sister's fiance and says that we're getting married in 2 weeks. There are a lot of congratulations from everyone. I thank them and then stick out my hand to the blonde guy and introduce myself with my full name, hoping that he'll respond in kind. He does, and I'm a bit taken aback. He's not named Jake. I introduce myself to everyone else and then tell Evelyn that I'm here to meet a coworker. I wave to Mark and then excuse myself. Once I get over to Mark, I tell him the guy's name, and we both whip out our phones and go to work. It doesn't take long for us to find him. He's got social media profiles and a couple of court case judgments against him. Everything sort of falls into place when we find out that Jake is his middle name. At this point, I'm basically just grateful that Evelyn isn't cheating on Marty with 2 different coworkers. Turns out that Jake is 26, married, and they have a 1-year-old. This just keeps getting better. Anyway, I text Marty the guy's name, and I decide I want to push my luck and tell him to wait a few more minutes. Basically, I'm playing babysitter here at the bar. I'm totally visible to Evelyn and her crew, and I'm happy to know that my presence is ruining their night. I let this go on for about 10 minutes and then tell Marty to text Evelyn that he's spending the night at his parents' house with their daughter. It doesn't take long after that until I catch Evelyn taking out her phone, showing it to Jake, and then everyone deciding to pack up. Evelyn comes over to me, says goodnight, and asks me if Sarah and I want to come over for dinner this weekend. I smile and say that sounds like a great idea and wish her and her coworkers a good night. Mark and I wait for them to leave, then pay our bill and hurry back to Marty. There's a bit of hesitation here because we don't know exactly what Evelyn was going to do. We thought she might have already booked a hotel room and was heading there, which would have made things more complicated. But it turns out that tonight was probably meant to be just drinks at the bar, and it wasn't until Marty decided to spend the night at his parents' house that it turned into something more. Evelyn made a beeline for home, and we followed behind her way out of sight and parked down the street. It didn't take long after that until another car pulled up into Marty's driveway and we saw Jake get out, go up to the door, knock, and be greeted by Evelyn. Then they went inside together. Now at this point, it's about 7:30 and I have my own stuff to do tonight, and I think that as a friend, I've pretty much done everything I can for Marty and he can handle the rest himself. I mean, I feel bad for the guy definitely, but I don't want to get any more involved in this drama than I already am, and being the wingman for him while he confronts his cheating wife is a bit much for me considering my situation. Marty says it's fine, that he'll do the rest of it himself. Guess he's more of a man than you thought, Evelyn. He goes to Evelyn's car, retrieves my gear, and we bid each other goodbye. That was almost 2 hours ago. I did get one text message from Marty saying it was done, and he was going to his parents' house for real this time, but my phone hasn't been blowing up, so I don't know what's been going on with Evelyn, and I've been at Mark's since then. I think that basically concludes my part in Marty's story. If he was smart and listened to my advice, he was recording with his phone when he entered the house. I'll find out later. Anyway, my biggest priority now is to head home and tell Sarah that the wedding is off. She's almost 100% going to take it badly. There's no way she won't. But like I said, I just can't get married to her right now. I don't know what the future holds for us or if we'll be done with each other or not, but definitely we're not getting married anytime soon. Also, for people who keep saying, why didn't you talk to her first? Why didn't you confront her? I have to say, are you people stupid? She stone cold lied in front of me to her brother-in-law that she had known for about 10 years and purportedly thinks he is a really great husband and father. Maybe you're naive enough to think that someone can lie that coldly to someone they are supposed to care about and then tell you the truth, but I'm not wired that way. Until that moment, I never had a cause to ever second-guess Sarah or not trust her, but she was literally untrustworthy in front of my face, and I'm supposed to let it slide or expect her to be honest with me? I guess you don't know what it's like to have your entire view of someone shift in an instant. It's disorienting and frankly a bit panic-inducing. It would have been so easy for her to lie to me and then delete those messages, and if she had done that, I never would have read the horrible things she said, never seen how she can be so two-faced, and never realized how little I actually knew her. I caught my future mother-in-law trying on my wedding dress. My fiance allowed her to do this without even asking me first. So I'm getting married to my fiance soon. I bought my wedding dress weeks ago. My future mother-in-law kept pestering me about trying it on, but I firmly refused. I finally shut it down after she offered me $100 to let her try it on. Her reasoning for persisting so much? She says it's because of her love for wedding dresses and her obsession with them. Fast forward to yesterday. I came home from work early and I found my fiance at home. He freaked out after seeing me and tried to prevent me from going into my room while trying to text somebody on his phone. I opened the door and I was shocked to see his mom standing there wearing my wedding dress. I instantly pulled out my phone and took a photo of her. She and my fiance freaked out after I told her that she needed to pay me for a new dress in 3 days or else I'll show the whole family the photo. She started crying and then left, and my fiance blew up at me saying I can't be serious and that I overreacted because his mom just wanted to try the dress on, no harm done. But I refused to listen to him because in my opinion, the dress should only be worn by the bride and the bride only. Quite frankly, I felt disgusted looking at the dress again. I don't want it anymore. And so I think it's only fair that she pays me after she ruined it for me. He yelled at me and told me to wake up and stop treating his mom like this as if she was an enemy. We had a fight after he failed to get me to back down, and he's been staying with his mom since then. I felt awful, but I spent $3,000 on this dress and I worked hard to get it. I can't stop looking at it, but people in my family think I'm escalating things and risking my relationship with not only future mother-in-law, but my fiance as well. Am I the jerk? Update. My fiance called and offered to pay for the dress himself so we can end the conflict, but he wants me to hand him my phone so he can delete the photo himself, swear that I don't have any copies to use against his mom later, apologized to his mom, and lastly, he asked that I quit his family group chat and log out of Facebook for at least a month. I haven't responded yet. P.S. He called with this offer and conditions hours ago, but I didn't want to include this in the post, but now I did. Also, I'm not sure if I'll agree because I don't want him to pay for it. I want his mom to pay for it, the one who wore it. Not being vicious, but trying to hold her accountable. Not the jerk. But are you sure you want to marry this guy? He stood guard outside so that his mother could try on your wedding dress. Do you think he will ever stand up against her for you? Not the jerk. But the problem isn't just your future mother-in-law, it's your fiancé. He let her in. He was going to lie and hide this from you that she tried it on. He's defending her actions. He disrespected your belongings. He didn't care about your feelings and still doesn't. He has shown he doesn't care about your boundaries. He decided his mother wanted to try it on, and that's more important than your feelings, and that won't go away when you're married. Personally, my petty self would call off the engagement, and the announcement of that would be the picture of his mom in my wedding dress stating, "Unfortunately, I cannot marry him. It appears he's already emotionally committed to his mother. At the bare minimum, you should postpone until he can respect your boundaries." My wife always gets sick when I take vacation. We're both 38. She always gets sick when I take vacation from work. She's a stay-at-home mom with lots of freedom. If she's having an off day, I encourage her that laundry, etc. can wait. I work 40+ hours a week at a salary job and it's high stress. It's not unusual to get calls after hours or work on Saturday. I'm active with the kids and also help with the house. When I take vacation from work, it's scheduled 30+ days in advance. Most of the time, it's a staycation, relax at home. She's well aware of the dates. It never fails. My vacation arrives and she's either sick or not feeling well, like sore back. My plans get canceled, like sleeping in or a morning fishing trip. She feels bad for feeling bad, usually cries and spends the whole time in bed. This isn't normal. How do I deal with this? I've tried to discuss it in the past, but it just turns into her crying. This round, I get 2 days off, and suddenly her back hurts bad enough she can barely walk. She claimed that she cleaned all day, but the kids said she basically just played a computer game. Help. Update. The plan is to split my vacation with her. The first half hers, the second mine. It's very possible that she is not intentionally being sick, but her body knows she can finally slow down and rest. We will also be going to marriage counseling whether she wants to or not. Update 2. To clarify, by vacation, I mean time off from work. During my vacation, we split the time between 1 day for me and 1 day for her. 2 days with a sitter for us to enjoy together, and the rest is spent hanging out as a family. I help her with the kids and house before and after work. I also work from home some and help during those days too. It's not uncommon for her to leave the kids with me and go have lunch with a friend or visit the park. I'm getting a ton of comments saying I'm obviously a horrible partner and dad. I should give her more time. I love her and I'm doing everything I can and asking for advice. If this is how you feel, go away and take your anger out on someone else. Most partners don't do half of what I do. I'm going to schedule couples counseling and have an open conversation about it. I'll go even if she doesn't. This was suggested by a counselor. All the hateful comments are funny. Good reminders that people on the internet aren't afraid to be rude. Most of the people seem to be stay-at-home moms whose husbands are also on vacation. Obviously, this is a bigger issue you two will have to work out. But in the meantime, try hiring a sitter in advance on your days off, or arrange for family to come stay, or for her and the kids to go stay with family. Stock the house with cold medicine, Pepto-Bismol, tissues, cold packs, and chicken soup. If and when she gets sick, she'll be set. Obligatory, I'm not a therapist or mental health care professional. When I go weeks on end, very stressed about a project at work, once the project is done, I get sick. I assume it's my body finally relaxing on adrenaline production, but have no scientific evidence to back that up. It's possible your wife's pain is very real and it's just getting released when you're home because she feels like she can relax a bit then. Therapy and anxiety medication has significantly helped me cut down on this happening. Best of luck to you. If a man did this to his wife, we'd all be screaming weaponized incompetence, which it absolutely is. This isn't okay, and you're right to be mad. She is definitely manipulating you. I don't know why it's important to her that you spend your days off taking care of her, but that's something the two of you definitely need to talk about. You say that you work a lot. Is there a chance your wife is really desperate to reconnect with you, and this is the only way that she's figured out how to do it? I'm not saying it's a good or healthy way to go about it at all, but this might be your wife trying in a very clumsy way to communicate she'd appreciate you being around your family more. Also, seeing a lot of interesting assumptions in the comments. I'm not male, my dudes. Am I the jerk for saying again after my sister announced that she's pregnant with twins? I'm 21, female. My sister, who's 32, has been married to her husband, who's 33, for 8 years. They already have 6 kids total, the last one born 5 months ago. Yesterday, my sister had announced that she's 3 months pregnant with twins, and while everyone was congratulating her, I said out loud, "Oh my goodness, again? Can't your stupid husband leave you alone?" I didn't mean to say it out loud, but it slipped out, and my sister looked at me angrily and literally dragged me into another room and asked, "Why did you say that?" I told her that she and her husband have been pregnant every year for the last 8 years and that she needs to take a break. I was worried about her having so many babies in such a short time, and I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. She then said, "How about you leave us alone and worry about your own stuff? This is my life, so back off." My mother told me that I should apologize for being rude, but I told her that I won't apologize for showing concern. But now I just can't help but think that maybe I was a jerk and sticking my nose in other people's business. I was just worried, but maybe I was being a jerk. Am I the jerk? Edit. Yes, I do babysit my sister's kids sometimes, and all 6 of them at the same time whenever they need me if I'm available. They pay me $30 to $50 an hour, but their kids are pretty destructive and they don't respect other adults like they're supposed to, so it's a full chore watching after them. I'm aware that the stupid husband comment was inappropriate, but I have almost no filter, and my stupid mouth says things before my brain can stop it. Update. I apologized to my sister for insulting her husband and making that rude comment, but I told her that I'm still worried about her having so many kids back to back, and I'm just concerned in general about her health and well-being. She actually forgave me, and she said it's because 1, I'm her younger sister, 2, she knows about my problem with keeping my thoughts to myself and that I'm working on myself, and 3, she knows that I'm concerned for her and she appreciates it, but she assured me that she's fine and said that this pregnancy wasn't planned and her husband plans on having a vasectomy because they both want this pregnancy to be the last. For those asking in the comments how they can afford to have these many kids, he runs a very successful business and she's still co-partner with her best friend in a company that they both started before she got married. How she manages to juggle being a full-time mom and work there is beyond me, but she does. That's why I babysit sometimes when the nanny isn't available 24/7. Her husband was the one who initially wanted a big family, and my sister just went along with the idea. But that's their business. You're the jerk, but it needed to be said. You're a good jerk. In my opinion, not the jerk. That's too many kids to give adequate care to, and being pregnant consecutively for that long is really hard on someone's body and mental health, whether they want to admit it or not. Not the jerk. We as a society need to move away from this idea that parents are above reproach. That's too many kids to adequately care for in today's society. You could have been more tactful, but someone needs to think about the well-being of her kids here. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that I don't want to take care of his son anymore? My boyfriend, who's 30, has a son who's 6. When I first got with my boyfriend, his son was only 2 at the time. His mother didn't want me to be involved in the care of their kid, and she and I have never really seen eye to eye. In the beginning, it went really well, and his son was here every other week. But the older he got, the less time he was with his mom, and he's with us 100% of the time now since his mom was arrested a year ago. In the beginning, we divided the chores and childcare equally. 4 months ago, my boyfriend got an opportunity to work on 3 projects, which could lead him to a big promotion. He's always working late, either from home or in the office. I've been doing all the chores and childcare since then. I cook, clean, get his son ready in the morning, and drop him off at daycare. The only thing my boyfriend has to do is get his son ready for bed. I told him last Friday that from Monday on, I won't be doing the childcare anymore. He got angry. He said we're a family and we need to support each other. He told me he needed me right now and that I just needed to be patient. I replied saying that this is his son and he needs to do the majority of the childcare. I've been doing all of it and it's not fair since he's the father. He then went into the other room, got his son, and he said, "Mommy says she doesn't want to take care of you anymore," while pointing at me. I said not to call me that because I'm not his mother, and his son started crying. I of course comforted and apologized to his son because it wasn't my intention to upset him. My boyfriend is still mad and has been taking care of his son, but he won't speak to me. I didn't think this was unreasonable. He's the parent and needs to do more of the childcare. And also, the mom doesn't even want me to be involved in the kid's life, so I'm already overstepping her wishes. My sister is on his side and says I'm at fault since he and I are a family now, and he needs my support, and that the mother's wishes don't matter at all right now. Like, I don't think this was at all unreasonable, but I'm not sure if I was unreasonable here. Am I the jerk? I see a lot of you asking if I work. I do. I'm giving at-home care to the elderly and disabled. I've lowered the number of hours that I work to 20 to 28 hours per week. How demanding my work is truly depends on the day and which client I have on my schedule. Sometimes I have clients on my schedule that don't require a lot of time and I'm finished by noon, and the other times I have to work until 8 p.m. It really varies per day. Not the jerk. Don't hide behind what the mom would want. Whether you're the stepmom or not is irrelevant here. He's dumping all of this on you, and that's unfair, whether you're stepmom, biological, or whatever. If that's not the life you want, you need to break up and leave, because he's obviously benefiting from you providing full-time childcare and domestic labor and won't want to give it up because it has value, and he's extracting that value from you and doesn't want to start paying someone to do what you do for free. This relationship is over. If you stay, this is the life you'll have. My Karen girlfriend refused to pick up my kids from school when I was at work keeping a roof over our heads. I, 36 male, have been with my girlfriend, who's 32, for 2 years. I have 2 boys who are 13 and 9 from my previous relationship. Their mom is not in the picture. I work full-time and my girlfriend used to stay home and take care of everything else. I still help out here and there. Yet she would complain about the kids causing constant messes, not receiving proper discipline, accidents like breaking a vase, and the list goes on. She complained that she is more of a parent than I am, which isn't true since I provide an income. Yet she decided that she wanted to go back to work and started looking. She found a potential job and her interview was yesterday. I called her to remind her to pick up the kids from school since she's responsible for that, but she said that she was about to start her interview and told me to go get them. I was stunned. I told her I couldn't because I was at work. She said I could take a break, but I refused because this would have affected my job. I asked if she'd take 10 minutes to quickly go pick them up, but she refused. We ended up getting into an argument and me telling her she should have figured something out beforehand. She blew up saying that I'm the parent and that she was tired of being at my beck and call all the time. The kids ended up being picked up by my friend 40 minutes later, which made them upset. At home, I got into a huge argument with my girlfriend, calling her selfish for doing this to the kids and ditching them like that. She said that she had an important interview and that I, as the parent, could have figured something else out instead of expecting her to drop what she was doing and pick the kids up. She called me a jerk, then she went to stay with her mom. You're the jerk. She had something going on that was important for her and her future, and they're your kids. She's right. She's more of a parent than you are, because providing an income isn't the same as actually parenting. You're basically letting her do a 24/7 job to avoid taking responsibility yourself. You're the jerk. Wow, she had a job interview. You already have a job and they are your kids. Of course you should have taken a break from your job. Or you should have arranged something else. Your girlfriend was not available that day. And no wonder she's getting a job if you refuse to do more than help out here and there and hold over her head that you are more of a parent than her because you provide an income. Once she gets the job, you'll probably need to do 50% of the household tasks and 100% of the parenting. You're just trying to sabotage her to prevent that from happening. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. You want me to make a patient stay late so you can skip work during the snow? Okay, if you insist. Once upon a time, I worked in a research hospital coordinating drug studies. This one's gonna go against the grain of some of the stories here. When you work in healthcare, following the written laws and rules to the letter is of the utmost importance. We run into trouble when people begin inventing their own rules and playing by them. The hardest part of my job was convincing other departments to also do their jobs, and sometimes it was like pulling teeth, asking people to perform their duties at even a basic level. Ask a nurse to draw a basic 4-tube blood kit, you get an eye roll. Ask the pharmacy to stay 5 minutes past the end of the workday? Nope, they couldn't do that. They were out at 4:30. That second scenario is the important one for the purpose of this story. That department refuses to stay late. I could understand why they'd feel that way and strive to maintain as steady a schedule as possible, but in the world of sick and dying people, sometimes things come up. Mind you, I regularly had to stay an hour or two past the end of my shift to take care of problems in data entry. We could get overtime pay or flex our schedules pretty easily, at least in my department. This hospital was in a very snowy metropolitan area, and one time years ago, we were projected to get a massive blizzard. Every one of us, the nurses, the physicians, the pharmacists, and the coordinators, were essential employees, or whatever they called it before lockdown popularized the term, and had to come in regardless of the weather. So every one of us should have been planning to be there the next day, even if the weather was awful. We had to call in sick if we missed work for weather reasons. The afternoon before the storm was due to begin, we had a patient in clinic. Typically, patients on this particular research study got a doctor's appointment and then treatment immediately after. However, this individual had a job that made him prefer getting his clinic visit done in the afternoon and his treatment early the next morning. It was unusual, but it wasn't hard to accommodate him. While most of us had accepted our fate of driving in the snow the next morning, the investigational drug department was especially not too excited about the prospect of having to come in during the blizzard. So at 3:30, an hour before the pharmacy closes, they send me a Slack message and ask us what the possibility of doing this patient's treatment today might be, so they don't have to come in for it tomorrow. Really? You're asking us this now? This was on your docket all day. Anyway, I begrudgingly went to find the patient in the waiting room and ask. He wasn't thrilled, but says that he'll do it if he has to. I let the pharmacy know. Then they asked me what the status of the patient was. Clinic was running behind, as usual, and we hadn't cleared the patient for treatment yet. The investigational pharmacy needed at least 20 minutes to prep the drugs needed, so they told us we had till 4 p.m. to get them the signed order. The process for getting a drug order filled involved getting a signed order from a doctor after a patient has been cleared to get it, walking it outside across the street to the pharmacy, handing the signed prescription to a pharmacist, waiting for it, walking it back to the patient in the first building. This was absolutely not going to happen in less than 12 minutes. At 4:01, pharmacy sent me a very rude Slack message indicating that I'd basically missed my window to get the patient in today, and I should do a better job next time. As a coordinator, you got blamed for absolutely everything, even if it was the fault of the doctor who was bad at time management. Their message said something along the lines of, "If you don't come up and give a pharmacist the order by 4:05, there's nothing we can do for your patient. In the future, you should get the order signed and over to us ahead of time so we can prep it." Ahead of time, in this case, meant that a patient would have been prescribed a drug that wasn't even cleared by a doctor to receive it. In my training, the pharmacy director told us we were never ever supposed to do this. It was a humongous no-no and would be grounds for a massive lawsuit if anything went wrong. You absolutely don't prep a drug unless the patient receiving it is cleared for treatment by a physician. I really liked the pharmacy director, and I messaged her regularly with questions about meds patients might be considering while on study. But she wasn't super involved in the day-to-day of the pharmacy workers and tended to focus on bigger picture tasks. Hence why her employees were inventing their own rules and demands. So I'm supposed to get this patient in today, right now, eh? All right, if you insist. So I got the order signed by the physician ahead of seeing the patient. They didn't really give a hoot. Next step, in the words of the person who messaged me, was to take it to a pharmacist, eh? You said I had to take it to a pharmacist by 4:05, right? What if, instead of walking it directly to the pharmacy, I took it directly to the pharmacy director? She was still a pharmacist and could do everything the folks in the investigational drug dispensary could do. I told her that we hadn't cleared this patient, but I had been urged by pharmacy to dispense the drug anyhow, so that the patient wouldn't have to come in tomorrow for their treatment. She looked puzzled and asked if the patient rescheduled while in clinic. I told her no. This was at the request of the pharmacy staff, so they wouldn't have to come in during a snowstorm. I showed her the message her employee had sent me. Pharmacy director was unhappy with this and said someone would just have to stay late if this was the plan. I referred her to the Slack message that said I had missed my window because they didn't plan to stay late. Director was livid and told me that she personally was going to stay late to make sure this went through. We went to the pharmacy from her office and she intended to scold this employee, but of course, everyone was gone. So the two of us went and got the meds at 4:35 and I got it back to the patient. I got a call from him a week later indicating that he actually preferred getting Thursday afternoon treatment instead of having it on Friday morning and wanted to keep that schedule going forward. I relayed this to the head of the pharmacy. I expressed uncertainty with how we had handled this and she said she'd get back with me. We all got an email a few days later saying that the investigational drug department would now be staying open until 5:30 and one person would be staying late every day, rotating every day, so that someone could cover late orders. But I knew she only had 3 pharmacists and they were all salaried, not hourly, which meant some of them would be covering more than 1 late hour a week. I went to get this patient's next dose a few weeks later at about 4:45. The same woman who had asked me to break the rules was working. I asked her how she was doing, and she told me she was having to work 4:30 to 5:30s a week, presumably because she tried to act unethically a few weeks prior. She handed me the pill bottle and slammed the window in my face. And to think, if the pharmacists would have just shut up and done their jobs like they were supposed to and come in during the snowstorm, they'd still be able to leave at 4:30 every day. If you work in healthcare or health research, don't make your own rules, kids. My best friend won't stop hanging out with my wife. I'm 29, male. My wife is 30, female. And my best friend Cyan is 25, male. We do not see eye to eye. Some backstory. My wife and I moved for my new job. Cyan was the cousin of a high school friend, so I was thrilled to know someone. We quickly became best friends, closer than brothers. During lockdown, our job was in person versus my wife working from home. Cyan is a very kind person. I think my wife hated everything about him. She thought he was too goofy and hated how he teased her. My wife takes things seriously, and she's a romantic, so things like date nights are a big deal to her. She hated when Cyan hung out, even when I invited him. A few months ago, I had a 4-month project across the world. I needed the promotion. My wife ended up needing surgery, and she, unlike me, didn't make close friends here. Her friends and family were too far. She couldn't do normal things post-surgery and wanted me to come back. I complained to Cyan, and he suggested that he pop on over to help her. He ended up doing a lot more, and my wife heavily relied on his kindness. When I came back, it was like my wife flipped her switch. Things that were immature became playful. She constantly fell for his fish for compliments, and it was like Cyan could do no wrong. Cyan still hung out, but it was like he couldn't snap out of caretaker mode. The two of them are practically joined at the hip. When I went to work, my wife packed Cyan a lunch too, and his is a lot better than hers or mine. Cyan needs this or that or whatever. She showers him with attention. My wife can be overbearing like that. At a small party, I came with my wife, and she immediately zoomed to Cyan and monopolized all his time. After he went to the bathroom, which was basically the only time she left him alone, I pulled him aside and told him I knew my wife was clingy and it was okay if he kept boundaries. He wasn't obliged to hang around my wife. I said it kindly. He turned red, told me I was a jerk, and stormed away. He left without saying goodbye to anybody but my wife. Am I the jerk? I told some mutual friends about this, and most of them are on my side. They said Cyan didn't know how to stand up for himself. He was embarrassed. Cyan is still upset. You're the jerk. You're jealous of them spending time together because you enjoyed neglecting your wife for your friend, and now he's less available. You're mad that the thing you wanted to happen, them getting along, has happened. And you're upset that at your suggestion, he was there for her and supported her when you didn't. I don't know, and neither do you, whether your wife is trying to prove a point about how to be caring and supportive because you weren't towards her, whether they had an affair, or whether you're just someone who likes to be in control all the time. But it doesn't really matter. This is a situation that you set up entirely for yourself, and they have a relationship that you promoted and indeed forced by pushing them together while you were away, and your wife was in serious need of help. She had no choice over who could help her. You made it. You're a jerk for whining about it and trying to split their new bond apart for your own needs. It kind of sounds like both you and your wife are in love with Cyan. In any case, it seems that you are unhappy regardless of the friendship or lack thereof that your wife and Cyan have, and you also seem keen to fault your wife whatever she does. I think you're the jerk. This story has a lot of U-turns, but ultimately, you seem to be upset because somebody, I'm not sure who to be honest, is not giving you enough attention, which is only a jerk move because when your wife was in the exact same position, you imply she was being unreasonable, which sort of makes you unreasonable by your own definition. You're the jerk for what the other people said, but also this. I know my wife is clingy. He wasn't obliged to hang out with her. Then in the comments you say, she'll feel hurt that he's too awkward to say he doesn't want to be friends. You think he doesn't actually like her, or even that he has no reason to like her. You've decided that he's just tolerating her and she's lavishing care on someone who's pretending to like it. You're calling him a liar. You're calling her unlikable. And you brought in others at a work party to make fun of their friendship. She sobbed for you to come home and take care of her. You prioritized a project and a promotion. He was there for her, above and beyond what you thought she needed, and still does things with her that you wouldn't dream of, like letting her put makeup on him. You're jealous and selfish. You're going to lose both of them if you don't treat them with love, respect, and appreciation. But hey, at least you'll have your promotion. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife and Cyan? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for how I responded to my dad and stepmom trying to force us to watch their wedding video? I'm 14, female, and my brother is 10. Our dad has been with Carol for close to 2 years, and they got married in early November. Carol hates us, especially me. She calls me a problem child and is always picking on me, being rude to me. She constantly compares us to her daughters, constantly picks fights, and tries to parent my brother and I. She yells and calls us names when we have to go over. If one of her daughters does something to us, like takes our stuff, she just brushes it off and laughs, and our dad just lets it happen. We have no choice but to see him 4 times a month because of he and our mom's court agreement. But we hate it there, and we hate Carol. So we didn't go to their wedding, even though Dad was super upset and fought with us about it for 2 months after we told him that we weren't going. So we skipped the wedding. Last Sunday, he picked us up like usual and drove us to his house. I noticed right away they were in a better mood and that they have been lately. Carol was blabbing at us about their honeymoon in Florida. When we got to the house, Dad announced they had something to show us and for us to go sit in the living room while he got it. Me and my brother went and sat down, but we both had a bad feeling. The girls were nowhere around, which was weird. Carol came to sit on the other couch and she was just staring at us, looking like she'd won something. And my dad comes in with a Blu-ray disc and puts it into the player and sits with Carol. And Carol says in this happy voice, "This is since the 2 of you missed it. You can now see what you missed." It started playing and we realized it was a video of their wedding. A few seconds in, it was edited to a clip of them saying "I do" and kissing. My brother saw this and started to cry, and I just got so mad. We hate Carol, and that's why we didn't go in the first place. She wasn't going to force us to look at it now. So I grabbed my brother's hand and pulled him off the couch and said that we weren't going to watch this. Carol sneered and said we had no choice. I told her she'd never be in charge of us, no matter how much she wished she was, and I told my dad we were leaving. I admit I shouted at this part. She told me to stop being a little jerk, and I shouted back that she's a big fat jerk who should know better. Rude, I know. She shouted at my dad, "Are you just gonna let her talk to me like that?" And Dad just kind of laughed and said that he wasn't dealing with this and went to his room and locked the door. I took my brother to go get his stuff on, grabbed my bag and left, with Carol screaming at me most of the time. I don't know most of what she was saying. It was too loud and screamy. I started walking with my brother down the side of the road and called my mom on my cell to come get us. We walked about 10 minutes before she met us on the road. Dad is mad at me, Carol is mad, but I don't care. Mom is upset only because she thinks I shouldn't have walked my brother along the road. If I'm the jerk, it's alright. Edit to add, a commenter here told me I was a bad kid who was exaggerating Carol's rudeness, so I'll say here to read my comments so you can see the other things that Carol does. Not the jerk. Carol treats you poorly, and your father does nothing to protect you from that. And it's understandable that you would have an outburst like this. You're young, and it's hard to deal with stuff like this when no one takes you seriously. All in all, I don't think you handled it that poorly. If you haven't already, I'd recommend sitting down with your mother and brother and explaining to them why you both dislike going to your dad's. You're getting to an age where the courts may actually take your opinion into consideration for where you spend your time. Good luck, and I hope it all works out for you. Not the jerk. Stepmom is completely clueless if she thinks that the 2 of you wanted to watch their wedding video, and particularly if she thought that you would think it was so cool and then regret having skipped it. Not the jerk. Could you have handled it better? Sure, but I don't blame you for being upset, especially after your brother started crying. Name-calling happens sometimes, but that's the only jerk behavior from you I see, and given her treatment of you, it's understandable that you'd snap. Your dad sounds like a jerk, and I hope you guys are able to change your visitation or something. You shouldn't have to deal with your stepfamily treating you like this, but it's even worse when a parent ignores that treatment. I'm glad your mom was only concerned with your safety and supports you guys. Karen, eager to have employee punished, mistakes me for manager. It had been a long week and a long day at work, So I decided to stop at my favorite store with the red bullseye for some decent, moderately priced Cabernet and some bubble bath stuff. Your girl likes to be bougie on a budget. I'm sure you all know where this story is going, given the sub we're on. A Karen, though not your typical Karen look, she had long hair and didn't seem like she was even 40 yet. Definitely not old enough for the entitlement and dementia that is Karen. As calmly as she could, to seem professional I guess, stormed up to me. She began lamenting how the teen employee would not get the things for her. They don't have the thing apparently, and he needed to be disciplined. Cut his pay, cut his hours, fire him. He has zero work ethic. It was starting to hurt my ears. The poor kid wasn't far off and came up because he realized that I'm not employed by Bullseye. I want him fired. I can't do that, ma'am, and if I could, I wouldn't. What do you mean you can't? Aren't you a manager here? No. But you have a name tag. It even says manager on it. Yes, it says property manager for the company that I work for. So, you're still a manager, right? I was fed up here. Ma'am, what does the logo on my tag say? Is there a little bullseye? Am I wearing red or whatever color managers wear here? But you're a manager. You have to help me. You have to punish him. Now I'm fed up, just baffled. I just want to get my bubbles, my Cabernet, and go get in my giant tub and enjoy myself. Why are people like this? I'm beginning to believe all the tales and myths of the terrible Karen. I walk past her carefully, not to brush against her at all so she can't claim assault. Her breath smells like egg and cigarettes. Once past her, I speed up and grab whatever booze and bubbles are on display so I can get to the checkout. Oh no, she's following me. Maybe if she were 60 or so, she would have given up. I luckily make it through the checkout with my two things bagged and have my receipt. My social anxiety tells me that people think I'm a thief because I'm running. I'm safe in my car. I don't see her anywhere. I drive home. As I'm finally in my tub, relaxing, eyes closed, turning into a human lobster, I see her. When will I escape? I will forever know that Karen is real. She's not a mythological beast. She's an actual living monster. Edit. To everyone saying I should have or could have fired the kid, you overestimate my power and you underestimate my anxiety. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my cousin's hospital bill? A few years ago, I, 32 female, took over my mom's portion of the family annual Thanksgiving host rotation. It's a fun event because I get to see family I generally don't for the rest of the year, and I love hosting. It's a semi-potluck, and I make a point of asking about allergies and food preferences. This year, my cousin, who's 36, male, told me he was joining with his new wife. They got married in July, and her daughter, who's around 8. Cousin was added to the group chat and didn't say anything about allergies or preferences when asked. Fast forward to Thanksgiving. One of the desserts I made was peanut butter cookies. My family and I love them. Cousin's stepdaughter ate one and is allergic to peanuts. I had no idea and would never have made them if I had known. Husband and I took them to a standalone ER that was about 5 minutes from the house. We stayed with them for some time until she was transferred to the local hospital where she stayed overnight. She ended up being fine. Last week, I got a text from my cousin with a picture of the hospital bill. He wanted to know how I wanted to handle it. I called, and he and his wife expect us to pay the bill. I told him we weren't going to do that. I reminded him that he had told me nobody had allergies, and hubby and I did pay the copay at the ER, $500, because we felt bad. We had an argument, and now the family is involved. They're mostly on my side, but some are getting into me for having anything peanut related, because everybody has peanut allergies nowadays. The bill is about $6,000. We don't have it. The $500 we paid came out of our Christmas budget. I feel bad his stepdaughter got sick. Ultimately, though, it's their responsibility to handle things like this. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay? Update. Showed the bill to a friend who helped me understand that this is the total bill, not what is owed privately. Also, I called Uncle, cousin's dad. Uncle wasn't at the event and has been rather silent in this matter. I learned that cousin hasn't shared that A, nobody shared allergy issues, and B, that we paid the initial copay. Uncle is now upset. I've been told not to worry my pretty little head, and he will have a chat with his son. Not the jerk. Your cousin should take full responsibility for his stepdaughter's medical bill for being negligent by not mentioning about her allergies. You are not responsible for this incident. Not the jerk. You made a point of asking, and they said nothing. then let stepdaughter eat not just something that randomly contained peanuts, but a peanut butter cookie without bothering to check. They sound like lousy parents and step-parents, to be honest. My husband has a nut allergy, and I check and double-check food all the time when I shop or when we go out to eat. I make a point of reminding friends and relatives when we visit, etc. Not the jerk. As the parent of a kid with peanut allergies, you can't expect the world to pay attention to this for you. Ultimately, it's going to be the kid and the parent's responsibility. Peanut allergies are common, but you can't expect the world to just give up peanuts. My 5-year-old knows how to ask if foods have peanuts before eating. We've also been showing up to parties with a dessert in hand for our kid because 99 times out of the 100, the desserts or treats are not peanut safe. Very rarely does someone go out of their way to be peanut safe without being told in advance. For the 8-year-old to not ask or know, or the parents to not mention it or inquire is a bit puzzling. Bad situation overall, but I wouldn't hold you responsible if this was my kid. It wasn't your responsibility, and you did ask. Manager sarcastically asked if I needed to go home mid-shift. I called his bluff and said yes and punched out and left. Just another crazy night in our industry, but I'm now sitting on my couch drinking hot chocolate in my PJs. I was supposed to be in a dirty uniform shirt holding down Section 2 until at least midnight. This is way better. Crap was falling apart hard when the manager sarcastically asked me if I needed to go home, saying he doesn't need this crap right now and that he'd cover my section. Man, I know he wasn't expecting what came next. I said, okay, and took my apron off right in front of all of my guests. I was knee-deep on my third turn in a full 9-table section and had just gotten word that some entrees were run to the wrong table. I said, let me know when I can punch out, and left my screen open so he could transfer checks to himself. It doesn't matter what happened that caused this. It's been a long time coming, and I'm writing my resignation letter as we speak. But it sure felt great putting my coat on and punching out, just as the kitchen was begging the manager to please give them 10 minutes on Expo. And a server was complaining that her drinks were taking 20 minutes, and my entire section's worth of drinks and food orders were still written in my book and not rung in. I left a pile of scrap paper at the computer terminal for him to ring in everybody's orders. I'm pretty good about writing things down and crossing them off when they get rung in. But even still, if someone handed me the crap pile I handed him, I'd cry. My handwriting sucks, and I write all over the page like a lunatic. Not to mention the misdelivered entree debacle that now needed his immediate attention and the poor kitchen and bar that were dying for his attention. I highly doubt he's having a better night now that he's down a server suddenly on a packed Friday night. But like he said, he doesn't need this crap, so I'm about to stream A Christmas Story because my cats haven't seen it yet. I hope he remembers to bleach the stairs as part of his closing side work tonight. How much simpler would it have been if he had just asked if you needed a hand? Dug his own grave, but it sounds like it was already quite deep. OP. He did ask a million times, and in his defense, he's very hands-on, and I ask him all the time to do things for me. He's a great manager in that respect, actually. Tonight, he kept asking if I needed anything, and what I actually needed for him to do was to tell the new training manager to leave me alone. She's been micromanaging me over the last few weeks, and I've had it with her. She was actually getting in my way tonight. She was so on top of me. I'd turn to move fast, and suddenly I'd smack right into her, and she'd be saying something stupid like, "Make sure you offer table 13 to-go bags." So anytime the real manager asked what I needed tonight, I kept saying things like, "I'm fine. I just need a little trust tonight that I can do this job." Or, "I literally just need to get to table 12, like just get there physically, without a manager in my path holding water bottles out at me to go fill them ASAP. Can you maybe fill waters for the jerk manager so I can get to my tables since she thinks it's the only priority around here?" In his defense, I was passive-aggressive and crappy. In my defense, him and I have always talked to each other this way, kinda like, "You know what I'm saying, don't make me say the quiet part out loud." And I've approached him about this manager. He knows what I was saying. So yeah, both our faults tonight. I'll own half of it. I finally kicked my Karen daughter out of the house. My daughter recently told me and my wife that she's pregnant, and apparently she's been hiding it for 3 months. The boyfriend is a scumbag who I thought she left after I gave her an ultimatum to either leave him or leave my house, to which she chose the latter, or at least I thought she did. She started sobbing and telling us how sorry she was and that it was just a big mistake. I told her the only way she can stay in our house is if she gave the baby up for adoption, because we won't allow it to ruin her life. She just kept pleading to us that she'll take care of it, but I had a very hard time believing her after I just found out she's been lying to me for months and going behind my back to see her boyfriend. My daughter refused to give her baby up, to which I decided to kick her out of my house, and now she's staying with a friend for I don't know how long. My wife has been incredibly sad and is now telling me what I did was wrong. It wasn't an easy decision for me to make, but I couldn't allow her to walk away without any consequences. At her age, I was already taking care of myself, so I don't look at it the same way others might. Is it really wrong for me to kick my adult daughter out of my house after she lied to me? I'm willing to see if I've taken things too far. You're the jerk. You know forbidding your daughter from seeing her boyfriend is just going to make him more desirable, right? And how is kicking her out when she's pregnant, vulnerable, and in need of stability and love going to help? Yeah, not great parenting, I would say. Edit. Getting a few responses saying, OP set his rules and his daughter made her bed. Now she has to live with the consequences. Setting rules is one thing. Kicking out your daughter when she is most desperate is going to be the jerk choice 99.9% of the time. OP is choosing his rules over supporting his daughter. Not the jerk. If she expects for you to shoulder the expense and take on childcare duties you didn't agree to, you've put her in a very difficult position, and I can see why a lot of people think you are the jerk, but I would have done the same. Although, I would have had a serious conversation first about what I am willing and unwilling to do. Set very firm rules and boundaries as to my involvement and financial help, which she has to accept if she wants to return. If she chooses to keep the baby and I'm financially able, I would help in initially setting her up outside of my home, as I have no interest in raising another baby in my 40s, but I'm not going to financially support her forever. That being said, I would not leave her with completely no options, no support, and no help. If you let her come back with her choosing to keep the baby, know that there will be responsibilities expected from you that will fall on you and your wife, considering she's only 19. Is she working? How will she support herself? Is she going to pursue getting child support from the father? Either way, it's a difficult decision to make. Best of luck to you and your daughter. Not the jerk. If you let her stay, you and your wife will be the ones raising that baby while she runs around getting into more trouble and having more kids. She'll know that she can count on mom and dad to keep providing while she keeps doing her thing. I'm disgusted by all the people here telling you you're in the wrong. The good thing is they will be in the same position in about 30 years. Then they will get to be the 41-year-old grandparents raising babies. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for kicking his daughter out or not? Please let us know. Karen's brats refuse to eat my Christmas dinner. I, 31 female, am going to be hosting Christmas celebration this year. The menu is usual and everyone is familiar with it. My sister-in-law's kids are what they call the most vicious picky eaters out there. Mind you, they're 6 and 9 and are probably just being deliberately difficult to their parents. Sister-in-law called to inform me that she will be bringing food for her kids to eat at Christmas dinner. I asked her why, and she said that they will not be able to eat anything from the menu after looking at it. I said that I was sorry, but there isn't enough space at the table for extra meals. And besides that, the kids should really start learning to be more tolerant to some foods, especially at family holiday gatherings where it's expected for everyone to just eat what's in front of them without complaining. She went on about how difficult kids can be. Mostly can't relate, but I get it. But still, she should keep in mind that it's probably a passing phase for them, so sucking it up for one dinner wouldn't affect them. She said that I don't get it and that she doesn't want them to stay hungry or feed on snacks. I apologized and declined. My husband got involved in this, and he's saying I'm being inconsiderate towards my guests. He said that I lose nothing by allowing them to bring food, but I disagree because this was not part of my plan. And if anything, this should be a teachable moment for the kids to know that they can't expect to be catered for all the time. He got more upset and told me that his sister is heavily reconsidering coming to a celebratory dinner where her kids weren't allowed to bring their own food. They're applying pressure on me, saying I'll ruin the celebration if I keep trying to die on this hill. Am I the jerk? You're the jerk. It's not your place to provide a teachable moment. Get over yourself. She's not asking you to cook special food, and she's bringing it herself. Their food can be put on their plates, so your no room argument makes no sense. Make sure to dress up as Scrooge for the meal. You're the jerk. Exactly. You don't get to choose the teachable moments for someone else's kids. Your husband's right. It costs you nothing to be gracious. You don't have to do anything extra. She was just being courteous by giving you a heads up. Don't make this a thing. Let everyone enjoy the day. Ironically, this is a perfectly teachable moment for OP, that you're going to have to accept things will not play out the way you want them to when you have events like she is doing. You're the jerk. Either you want to dictate what people are eating, or you want to enjoy your family at a holiday gathering. These posts about inhospitable hosts are getting tedious. I prepare all of our family's holiday meals, and I could give a rat's backside if people bring a favorite dish of their own food. And your excuse, there isn't enough space at the table for extra meals, is ridiculous and absolute malarkey with a side of horse manure. You're the jerk. Why are you so intent on ruining Christmas for kids? This won't actually put you out at all. You're just gatekeeping Christmas dinner for some weird reason. I mean, I can be a control freak, but I've got nothing on you. Methinks your heart needs to grow a couple of sizes. P.S. No one likes the sound of kids crying because they're hungry and don't like the food. Don't make everyone listen to it. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
Bruh, unless your kid has actual dietary restrictions, they need to learn to just shut up and eat what's served at the dinner. The world's not always going to revolve around them and what they want, and they should learn that sooner than later. Stop raising entitled brats. Don't at me.
It's Reddit, Karen. You're expecting a little too much of these people. They wanted to start messing with the cat that I told them not to. This happened about 4 years ago, and I still laugh about it to this day. My older cousin had a cat named Tara when she was younger. Tara was a total loose screw, and she would bite and scratch anyone who so much as looked at her funny. And don't get me started when you dare disturb her sleeping. Never mess with Tara when she's sleeping. Tara only really felt comfortable around my cousin and I. She liked me because I usually helped my cousin feed her because I wanted to know what it was like taking care of a cat, as I want my own. Plus, I was already close with my cousin. Now here's where it gets good. My aunt and uncle were having a little family gathering, and they decided to invite some of their close friends. Among them were their demonic kids, Mini Bigfoot, who was 6, and Mini Yeti. Those two couldn't sit still or shut up for at least 1 second, and the parents just let it all happen. They would use the excuse, "They don't know any better." They probably would if you set a boundary or something at least. So while they're downstairs terrorizing the adults and anyone else who was brave and patient enough to be in the same room as them, me, my cousin, and her friend all just chill upstairs. They both are talking about some stuff with school and all that nonsense that I didn't bother listening to. They both leave the room to go run a few errands and buy some more cat toys, as Tara had demolished the previous ones. So now I'm left in the room alone with a little furball that's curled up on the bed having a darn good nap. Then I hear the sounds of rapid footsteps, and I didn't need to peek out to see who it was. Both gremlins walk in the room and immediately point out all the drawings on the walls of Nintendo characters. My cousin loves Nintendo. Then little Mini Bigfoot has to point out that there's a fluffy kitty on the bed. They reach over to pet her, and I inch their hands away and tell them to not disturb her. For some background, I already had a bad beef with these two, because when they were at our house, Mini Yeti pulled my dog's ear and tail constantly and wouldn't stop. Mini Yeti starts to whine about how much she loves cats, and she wants to cuddle the itty-bitty kitty. I tell her that Tara hates when her sleep is disturbed, and they still wouldn't go away. They went downstairs to tell their parents, and they told me, "Let them pet the cat. It's not even yours, and it's just a cat." I tried reasoning with them, and even my aunt and uncle sided with me, but they still wouldn't understand, as they swore it was just a regular house cat. I walked back upstairs, and suddenly I got a huge grin on my face. I told the kids that they can go play with the cat, and they started laughing at me and taunting me, but soon the tables would turn. They went inside of the room, and I camped outside the door. For about 5 seconds, I could just hear the "wow" from one of the kids. Then it finally came. An ear-piercing hiss and loud meow, followed by a distant sound of clothes stretching and gremlins screaming. They both sprinted out of the room crying, and the Mini Bigfoot had a big scratch going down his right arm. Little Yeti had it worse, as her nice new shirt was absolutely ripped, and the cat had got her on the arm too. Their parents were furious at me and commanded me downstairs to scold me. They asked how could I let that cat scratch them like that and not do anything about it. I was gonna say something, but then my dad's face went white as he pointed at the stairs. We looked, and guess what we saw? At the top of the stairs, Tara was right there with her tail hunched back and her ears folded flat against her head. To add to that, the lights upstairs were off, so her eyes were glowing. The dad of the two kids thought it would be a good idea to punish a cat that wasn't his, so he marched up the stairs while staring down Tara. Bad move, because Tara then leapt off the stairs and landed right on the dude's back and cut a huge cut in his shirt in the process. She then climbed off, then just went back up the stairs and went to sleep again, like she didn't just almost hurt them. When my cousin got back, we told her about the story, and she was mad at first. Then she started to laugh when we mentioned her cat wasn't hurt. Tara got a nice plate of tuna for dinner and a good back rub as a reward. Forgot to mention, Tara's still alive and kicking with my cousin. She's way different than she was years ago, as Tara takes time to warm up to strangers and doesn't just go full Bengal tiger mode on new people. She's way more lazier now as well. But one thing will always stay with that cat, and that's that you do not disturb her when she's sleeping. You will catch those paws if you wake her up. Am I the jerk for telling my husband I refuse to be a stay-at-home mom? My husband and I are expecting, and I am 5 months pregnant. We are over the moon and so looking forward to meeting our son. My husband owns and runs his own business, and so do I. We are both very happy with our jobs. Recently, we started talking about schools, childcare, and jobs, etc. Now, it's important to note that my husband and I are very safety-oriented and wary of people we don't know. I stated that I'd like to go back to work pretty soon after the baby is born. I'm looking forward to spending time with the baby, but I am in no way interested in staying home with him full-time. I'm imagining being back full-time when he's around 8 to 10 months. My husband was under the impression that I'd be staying home with the baby until he goes to kindergarten, maybe even longer. I was a bit taken aback because I had no idea why he thought this. He stated he wasn't really comfortable with leaving our kid with a sitter. Note, nannies are hard to come by where we live, and we both require some certain safety requirements for said nanny, which makes it hard to find someone suitable. I told him I wanted to start looking into nannies before the baby was born, so that they could get to know the baby during my maternity leave. That way, they would both be familiar with each other by the time I go back to work. He started arguing a bit about what our expectations were. I understand not every mom would be comfortable with my choices, but I cannot handle being a stay-at-home mom. I know it would mentally tear me apart, and it has no appeal to me. We're both in control of our own work hours, so it's not like we won't spend any time with the baby. We just both love our jobs and also need time to be people and not just parents. He said I was the jerk for not wanting to stay home until the baby starts school, and I said he was being a jerk for expecting that of me. He's respecting my decision and he supports me no matter what I decide. I recognize where he's coming from, but I just cannot for the life of me be a stay-at-home mom. But I guess I do feel a little bad because I'm wondering if I'm the jerk. Info: his business requires a bit more of him and requires him physically showing up for some parts of the job, which is why he cannot be the one to stay home. I have every means and access to stay home, I simply just do not want to. Am I the jerk for not staying home? Edit: it's an accidental pregnancy due to failed birth control, but we are now very happy. We've also talked about it in the past where he didn't show any discomfort with childcare. Guess we're all a little more overprotective when it comes to our own kids. Edit 2. I'm seeing a lot of comments stating, why didn't we have this conversation before marriage? We have. My husband and I have had this conversation, and we both decided we wanted to be child-free. We talked about it before we got married and have talked about it a lot since. We've even talked about accidental pregnancy, but never thought it would become real. This is a matter of failed birth control, and we just found out I was pregnant in month 4, so we weren't really left with many options. Furthermore, my husband changed his mind about outside childcare once we were actually in the situation. Guess parental protectiveness kicked in. Not the jerk. OP, do not let your husband guilt trip you into thinking you're a bad mom or a bad wife if you don't stay home. Once you start staying home, the dynamics of your relationship will change, no matter what your husband says. Plus, going back to work will be much, much harder. Now it'll be your job, and your job alone, to make sure your kid gets to school on time, has a ride home, gets meals on time, and overall just is prepared for daily stuff. If your husband isn't willing to make sacrifices so he can stay home, then he should not be expecting you to stay home. Period. Not the jerk. You state, He is respecting my decision and he supports me no matter what I decide. Are you delusional? No, I'm kidding. But he's not supporting your decision since you feel like this. If this is so important to him, he can make the sacrifice. Oh, wait, you say he can't? Well, neither can you. He doesn't seem to support the fact that your mental health and love for your career exists. You both need to talk more about this. Will you be expected to be the one who drives the kid to school and picks them up every day? Sports activities? Friends' houses? Is he just providing the money? What's going on here? I'd recommend writing down some important points and sharing them. Or maybe move to an area where you can find the support for raising this kid how you two would like. There are a lot more options than being a stay-at-home mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom, not by choice, and it has destroyed me. I'm not the person I was. I'm a hollow shell. Please don't get sucked into this. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for making comments about someone not being able to have kids because she called me Kim Kardashian? I, 40 female, freely admit I love social media and pretty much share my life as per many people. I'm very proud of my accomplishments and deserve to share them. I have 2 beautiful kids, mid-teens, who I raise well. I train hard and take a lot of care over my appearance and clothes choices. I work hard and look after my beautiful home. We're also lucky to enjoy nice holidays. I share most of this as well as venting about, say, poor customer service, and most of my friends expect this. I accept this isn't for everyone, but they can just scroll past. This involves my sister's sister-in-law, her husband's sister. Let's call her Sam, 45. We are linked on social media and see each other occasionally at my sister's. My sister and Sam post a bit, but not much, and rarely comment on my posts. Up to them. Sister has 2 kids who are in their late teens. Sam does not have kids. I heard unofficially from my sister a few years ago that she had had fertility treatments which hadn't worked. We've never spoken about it. Sister's daughters adore Sam. She's also their auntie. When she's there, I don't get a look in. She spoils them. I think she does it on purpose. We were at sister's house for a pre-Christmas party. I was taking photos, and eldest niece, who's 16, wanted to vet them before I posted them. This went on a bit too long. She looked good in all of them. My daughter does the same, and I eventually made an executive decision to post the perfect picture anyway. Niece was upset. Sam took her side. Sister was out of the room and said it was up to my niece. I said she couldn't always get her own way. She needed to learn life was about compromise. Sam said we weren't the Kardashians and niece had the right to veto. Calling me Kim Kardashian felt so disrespectful, and I said I was proud of my family and she would understand if she had had her own kids. She flinched but didn't really respond and was icy to me all evening. My husband apologized to her on my behalf, which she didn't even accept, and niece actually shouted at me. Later, my sister and even brother-in-law were angry when they found out. They called me later. But I didn't refer to her infertility, and what she said was really disrespectful, as if she was better than me. Am I really the jerk here? You're the jerk. Sam was absolutely correct. You shouldn't have posted the picture knowing your niece didn't like it. Second, having kids has nothing to do with this. You're not your niece's mom, and neither is Sam. The 2 of you were having this conversation as aunts. You only threw in the comment about Sam not having kids to shut her up. Finally, you know that Sam wanted kids and was unable to have them, so for you to use the fact that she's childless to win an argument was just wrong. My manager had me leave the new girl waiting tables on her own, so I took her at her word. I, 17 female, am a waitress/server/cashier at a semi-local Italian chain. Not going to say which, but it is considered a specialty of the DMV area. I recently had to take a month off of work for health reasons since I was in the emergency room and then had to spend time in inpatient. While I was away, there were huge changes at my job, including new managers and 2 new employees. I've only been working there since last June, but I picked things up pretty quickly. Barring the first day, I had to deal with a packed dining room by myself while still in training. I'd messed up pretty badly with the computer system and needed the manager's help. Still, it happens. Yesterday, I met the new girl for the first time. It was her 3rd day still in training. She's my age and a complete sweetheart, and as the dining room slowly became more and more packed, we made a great team. She got to practice working with the computers and talking to customers while I took down the orders and showed her how everything worked. It was her first time properly serving there, and she really did great considering that, certainly at first. The other two people who were working were a manager and one other hourly employee. The managers at my job will also serve and work the counters. Basically, all waitresses have to do double the work, and we still get paid dirt, but that's another story. I was running between the dining room and the counters to try to keep up, although we can only serve max 2 people at the counters, picking up or placing orders at a time. It was to the point where my manager and her friend had bundled up and complained about how cold it was, but I was flushed, with my coat off, covered in sweat. Cleaned myself up when dealing with the food, of course. The manager and her friend were sitting down together, alternating between scrolling on their phones and talking, only getting up to answer the phones when they had already rung 5+ times and having people wait at the counters to be helped for 10+ minutes. It was massively irritating, but I didn't have the time or energy to confront them. Well, about halfway through my shift, my manager told me that I can't just go in between the dining room and the counter, and if I didn't pick one or the other, she'd withhold my tips for both, since I wasn't fully invested in either. Ouch. She gave me a choice on paper, but in reality made it perfectly clear that I was stuck behind the counter and the new girl, the trainee, was on her own. There was nothing I could really do, so I just stayed at the counter, though that was plenty slammed in and of itself, and I really could have used my 2 coworkers who were messing around on their phones. I didn't have time to answer phone calls, pack up orders, check people out, and take to-go orders all at once, and I had one particularly angry woman call me a lazy jerk for leaving her on hold for about 2 minutes. That stuck with me. While I was doing all of this, the new girl was stuck with a packed dining room and no help. About 20 minutes into it, my manager approaches me looking both angry and sheepish. Basically, the trainee had messed up and charged the wrong orders to the wrong cards and needed help. Though the way she phrased this was,
"You know, you don't have to stay by the counter the whole time. That's not what I meant."
I looked over and could see her friend on her phone still, and the manager herself still had AirPods on and a show playing on her own phone screen. I responded in my sweetest, most respectful voice, "I'm sorry, but as we only get paid $10 per hour, my tips are too vital for me to forfeit them, so I'm going to stay put." Context: minimum wage is $15.65 where I live. She was floored, and instead of helping either of us herself, waddled back to her seat and resumed her show. Of course, I ended up checking in with the trainee and asked if she needed my help and if the mistake was sorted out. She said that she had things back under control and a lot of the people dining in were headed out, which was great because the counter was still slammed. The kicker? This morning, apparently a customer called in and complained that the blonde girl, me, and the girl with braids, the trainee, were so busy that they were sweating, while the 2 other women, the manager and her buddy, were sitting on their phones. I only wish I saw her face when she heard about that complaint. Not enough Big Mac sauce? I got you, bro. I was working at McDonald's about 10 years ago. Despite what people might think, there's actually a lot of work involved since we only had 6 people trying to do the work of 20. Likewise, getting yelled at all day in a 100+ degree kitchen, 37+ Celsius, is also less pleasant than any other jobs I've worked. Oh, what's that? Drive-thru needs 20 McDoubles and you only have 19? Gee, I wonder if front counter took one of your McDoubles. If you insist, I'll make an extra McDouble for you. Oh hey, what do you know? We have an extra McDouble now. Just the smell of grease now makes me want to chain smoke, even though I quit 5 years ago. Does that mean I think everyone deserves $15 an hour? Irrelevant. No matter how much someone makes, treat them with dignity. Not like they're some animal just because they're making sandwiches for you. We're all human beings and we're all deserving of love. You can't pay me enough to take that away, and you can't pay me too little to deem me unworthy of that. I say all that just to say, I worked as hard as I could every single day, but sometimes things just rubbed me the wrong way so much that I completely acted like a fool over it. This was one of those times. I realized in the moment I could probably get fired right now. I realized looking back, I'm really lucky I didn't get fired for that. Here's what happened. A guy comes in and asks for a McDouble with mac sauce, so I make a normal McDouble and I put a shot of mac sauce on it. We now have a McDouble with mac sauce. Crazy concept, I know. The manager comes back a minute later making a big scene. Manager: "This guy wanted mac sauce. Give him a McDouble with mac sauce on it ASAP." I'm pretty sure the whole lobby could hear it, maybe even people in the parking lot. Me. I put mac sauce on it. Manager. Then put extra mac sauce on it. Okay, so it's extra mac sauce you want? Oh, I've got extra mac sauce for you, friend. Here's one extra shot, and here's another one just for your trouble. But wait, that's only one extra mac's worth. Did you possibly want an extra Big Mac's worth? Here's another 2 shots for you. 12 shots of Big Mac sauce later, I thought. I hope this is sufficient enough for him. What we actually had at this point was a pile of mac sauce with a side of McDouble. If anyone was paying attention, they could see the mac sauce oozing through the paper. Me. 1 McDouble, extra mac sauce. It gets sent out. A few minutes later, the manager comes back looking very disappointed. The customer is looking at me like I just got done robbing his house. The manager says, "Okay guys, this is completely disgusting. Can we please get a McDouble with just a little bit extra mac sauce?" What was that? Please? Why didn't you say so in the first place? Why yes, you may have a McDouble with a little extra mac sauce. The new McDouble got sent out, the man enjoyed his meal, and we all lived happily ever after. Grandma attempts to ruin our Christmas. This story is about my paternal grandmother. Let's call her Miss F. It takes place over the course of about 1 year in the blessed pre-lockdown times. Before we get into it, however, let's give you some background on Miss F and my relationship with her. Miss F owns 2 houses next to the school I attended before leaving my hometown to study at university. My dad used to pay me to do some chores around her house, which she wasn't able to do herself due to some disabilities stemming from long-term alcoholism. I've heard some stories about her behavior from different family members, and she was divorced 5 times. While working for her, I quickly realized how difficult she could be, but I always thought my family members were exaggerating. That was until this story happened. So let's get into it. Back in the summer of 2018, I was visiting my parents in my hometown. I had been living elsewhere for about 3 years at that point. I decided to visit Miss F as I had a pretty good relationship with her back then. I was one of the few family members that was actively in contact with her for other than financial reasons, and she seemed excited about my visit as we hadn't seen each other in about a year. When I called her to set up the time and date, she asked me whether it was possible for me to borrow my mom's car, I don't own one myself, to help her pick up some furniture she wanted to add to a room for a live-in housekeeper. I cleared everything with my mom as I thought it wouldn't be much trouble. The day came and she picked up so much furniture it barely fit into the car, but everything seemed fine. I carried the furniture into the designated room through 3 very narrow staircases. It was a very old house in Germany. Afterwards, we had some coffee and cake together before I left. I then dropped off my mom's car and headed out to party with some friends from school whom I hadn't seen in a while. The next day was when everything began. At around 9 a.m., I was still slightly hungover from the great party the night before. She called me, demanding to know where I was, since I apparently agreed to help her assemble the furniture we bought. This was never agreed upon. She also demanded that I would bring the car again, as she had forgotten to pick up some things the day before. The car, however, wasn't even in town since my mom, the car's owner, needed it that day and had already left. I tried to explain to her that the car wasn't available that day, that we hadn't agreed to me helping her out the next day, and that I was in no condition to drive and build furniture, even if I wanted to. I did offer to reschedule to another day that week, but she wouldn't have it. She couldn't accept that it was literally impossible for me to fulfill her request, and the debate got heated. I don't remember specifics, but she tried to guilt trip me, which is when I snapped and told her that I wasn't her flying monkey here to serve at her pleasure. She hung up after that, and I thought that would be that. Over the course of the week, I tried calling her several times, since I still wanted to help, but wasn't able to reach her before I had to go back to my university town. Fast forward to Christmas 2018. I was back at my parents' place for the holidays, and the last interaction I had with Miss F was the phone call I just described. On Christmas Eve, my dad told me that she would be joining us for dinner, as was tradition, and that she wanted me to pick her up. Now, due to my dad's job, it was up in the air whether he would be able to join us that evening. So he added that Miss F would only attend if he was also there. In case he wasn't, I was just supposed to pick up the presents from her place. As it turned out, Dad had to work that night, so I just went and picked up the bag of presents. This was an ordeal in itself. I drove to Miss F's place, parked in front of it, rang the doorbell, and waited for her to open. This could usually take a while since our house is big and she isn't the fastest anymore due to the aforementioned disabilities. After a longer time than usual, I called her landline to inform her I was there. She picked up and told me she was still in the bathroom and would be right there. It took her about 10 minutes to get to the door. Usually it takes like 1, during which I was waiting in the snowy streets at -5 degrees Celsius, 23 degrees Fahrenheit for my American friends. When she came to the door, she handed me the bag of presents for my parents, brothers. She also asked for me to wish everyone a happy Christmas and added that she was hoping I would enjoy my present. I thanked her, said my goodbyes, and drove back to my parents' place to enjoy Christmas Eve. Evening had come. We've had dinner with my mom, her mother, a lovely woman, and my 2 younger brothers. We already had unwrapped most of the presents before dinner, as we usually do. All in all, a very pleasant and typical Christmas Eve for my family. After dinner, we've started drinking homemade mulled wine when I remembered I still had Miss F's gift and handed them out. Me and my brother each received an envelope with a card in it, but suspiciously, mine differed in size and color. I opened it and read its content. This is where the fun begins. While my brothers each received a complimenting message with 50 euros enclosed in the card, I received a scalding letter saying that she was still devastated by my behavior the previous summer and that she was expecting an apology for the disrespectful way I had treated her. Remember, her demands were literally impossible to fulfill. I admit I snapped and said something that could have been taken as disrespect, but continued to reach out wanting to help her while I was in town. I didn't really know how to react. I was speechless and threw the card on the table before going to grab another mug of mulled wine. When I got back from the kitchen, the older of my 2 younger brothers had read the card and loudly exclaimed something akin to, "What the heck?" At that point, everyone noticed something was wrong and I read the card out loud. I don't remember the exact wording, sorry. I then told them about what happened during summer. Nobody really believed how insane Miss F was, especially since she had been quietly planning her revenge for about half a year. The aforementioned brother, who had some extra money due to a paid internship, asked the youngest of us 3 whether he needed the 50 euros and offered to pay it himself, as he wanted to take all the 3 cards and throw them into her face. My youngest brother refused the monetary offer, but loved the idea, so that's what they did. I don't really know what happened afterwards. All I know is that Miss F was not expecting that reaction, as apparently no one in our family had ever stood up to her the way we did. This concludes the Christmas part of the story. We didn't really dwell on the topic for the rest of the holidays and still had an amazing celebration together. Fast forward to the summer of 2019. My parents had planned a big family reunion to celebrate a couple of important dates in their lives, coinciding major birthdays plus a significant wedding anniversary. That party was the first time I interacted with Miss F since the Christmas incident. I acted as if nothing had happened since I didn't want to cause a scene on my parents' special day with most of our extended family being there. This is a rare occasion since the family is spread around the Western world, mostly Western Europe and the US. We were together for about a week in my hometown, going to different dinner places every night and had a great and memorable time. I even got along with Miss F, albeit superficially and only in group settings. We never talked one-on-one. One evening, we were having dinner at a really nice place and she came over to the table me, my brothers, and my cousins sat at. They all know what happened during the previous Christmas and were pretty angry with her. She asked whether I was willing to visit her one-on-one so we could have a talk about what had happened. I was happy too, as I don't like to hold on to grudges, but asked her that we talk at eye level like adults with mutual respect, as she had a tendency to twist the truth to suit her needs. I didn't say that part for obvious reasons. She agreed and asked me to call her to set up a time and date after the week-long celebration was over. A day later, I received an email from Miss F stating that she no longer had any interest in a conversation, as it was apparent from my demands that I hadn't grown and wasn't ready to apologize. She also wrote that she wasn't able to speak to me on an eye level, as she had much more life experience than me. Again, I didn't really know how to process this. I still don't. But enough time has passed that I have stopped caring about my relationship with her. Up to this day, nothing has really changed about this situation. I've seen her a couple of times at different family gatherings since then, and the interactions were fine. Probably because neither of us wants to dig this crap back up during otherwise great family times. But the issue itself was never really resolved. So yeah, that's the story about how I learned that the reported insanity of my grandmother, Miss F, was not exaggerated. It might be mild compared to other stories on here, I'm very happy that I have the rest of my loving and supporting family to rely on, but it's still something that has changed me in a way, so I felt like sharing. Hope you enjoyed reading.
Karen demands I put my dog outside on Christmas.
I, 22 female, have a big cane corso, 130 pounds. Last year, I left him with some trusted friends to visit my family for 2 days. I hated it and asked my parents to let me visit with him next year. They agreed. They got a dog over this summer, and I thought nothing of it. Yesterday, however, I got a call from my stepmom saying that their little 15-pound mix has bitten 3 people and is extremely and irrationally dog aggressive. They never socialized her or took her to a trainer because she's tiny and harmless. I said I can take my crate and keep Dude, my dog, there or have them switch out with theirs, but she said that she needs Dude to be outside. I got upset and said no. Their yard is well fenced in and there is a small shed with heating out there, but I'm not a fan. It's 5 days of him in the cold, alone and outside. He's a house dog. He's never been and never will be an outside dog. There are no pet hotels or friends to turn to so close to Christmas. I tried making compromises, like keeping Dude in one room and just taking him out for walks, but she's refusing. She says it will upset their dog too much. I finally told her that if there's no way we can have Dude somewhere in the house, I can't go. Everyone is mad at me now, and my sister and cousin texted me saying I'm being overly dramatic. Dude is a protection breed, and a lot of them are actually kept in the yard as guardians. I understand that, but mine was never meant to be a backyard dog. I'd understand if it was summer and all, but I can't put him out in the dead of winter with temperatures below freezing. Am I the jerk for saying I won't go and for causing a scene?
Not the jerk. She's tiny and harmless, and yet she bites people? And they want to have a house full of other people around her? That's just a disaster waiting to happen. Not the jerk. You offered several options. They clearly have never boarded a dog if they think you can find a facility now. Most places are booked for Christmas by the end of July. I'd skip it, and that's on them. OP. I called around, and only one place has availability, but they want $280 a night, which is insane. Plus, their reviews are horrible. Everything is solid booked, and they even have a list of people waiting in case of an opening. Am I the jerk for accidentally insulting my future daughter-in-law's infertility? I'm 64, and I have one son, Robert, with my late husband, James. Robert is engaged to Sarah, who is also 35. Last Sunday, Sarah and Robert came to my house for dinner. We were chatting, and I told them a story about James, who Sarah unfortunately never got to meet. While I was pregnant, James was very excited and insisted on putting together everything, cribs and changing tables, etc. Bless him, but my James was not much of a carpenter, and one day when I was putting Robert in his crib, the whole thing broke. I managed to catch Robert in time, so no harm done, thankfully. After the story, I made a joke along the lines of Sarah never having that problem if they have kids, because Robert actually is a carpenter. She burst into tears and asked me why I was being so cruel. I was taken aback and asked her what was wrong, as I certainly hadn't meant to upset her, and I was sorry if I had. She told me they discovered recently that Sarah is infertile and she would never be able to have kids even with IVF. I apologized profusely and said if I had known, I would never have made a joke about it. James and I struggled with having Robert, and we were never able to give him siblings, so I felt awful that I had hurt Sarah like that. The mood was ruined after that, and Robert and Sarah decided to leave early. On Tuesday, I ran into Robert's best friend and his wife while I was out shopping. His wife is good friends with Sarah and seemed unusually cold towards me. I asked why, and she said she hadn't known I was so rude and that I should be ashamed of mocking Sarah's infertility. It turns out that the story had been spread that I viciously insulted Sarah and insinuated she shouldn't marry Robert. The story even got back to our family, and a lot of our relatives are quite upset with me. I apologized when I made the joke, but now I'm wondering if I really did overstep that badly and insult Sarah horribly. I don't want to be a bad mother-in-law, and I get along quite well with Sarah ordinarily. Am I the jerk here? Edit. I decided to answer some questions. 1. I haven't spoken to Robert about the story spreading the way it did. I thought it was best to give them space after the dinner to process Sarah's diagnosis, but a lot of commenters are saying I should ask him about it, and I think you may be right. 2. I haven't discussed future kids with her before,
as my own mother-in-law was quite cruel to myself and James, especially me since we only had Robert. James' siblings all have quite large families, and my mother-in-law was very clear about who she blamed for our lack of kids. I decided early on in Sarah and Robert's relationship that I wouldn't ask the typical questions of when would they be having kids, but I have only met Sarah's family once, so I don't know if her own relatives pressure her the way that my mother-in-law pressured me. 3. Sarah is a very lovely woman, and we have never had a big problem together before. Many commenters have said frankly rude things about her, which wasn't my intention when posting here. I know Robert has always wanted a big family, and he wouldn't have asked Sarah to marry him if they weren't on the same page about that. So Sarah is likely going through an enormous amount of grief at the moment. Do be kind to her, please. 4. I've also decided to reach out to Sarah and ask if the two of us can talk. I think the story spreading was really a case of telephone, but I would like to clear the air. Following that, I'm going to ask the both of them over for a chat and to discuss the situation, as I don't want this to fester. I haven't decided what I'm going to do about clearing everything up with the family, but it's not my main concern. Robert and Sarah are. I would like to thank everyone for their comments, as they were mostly all lovely and kind. The situation truly upset me, and a lot of you had very good advice, so thank you all. You made a joke about your late husband's carpentry skills, not your daughter-in-law's infertility, as you were completely unaware of their situation. That Sarah has chosen to make you a villain to everyone who will listen says more about her than it does you. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Since you had no clue your future daughter-in-law was infertile, the comment was completely innocent. Your future daughter-in-law spreading lies about you to friends and family is definitely a jerk move. Have you tried speaking to your son about this situation? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter-in-law? Please let us know. Daughter agreed to pay for half of our pool, now she's backing out. Honestly, I don't even feel that this situation needs to be on Reddit, but my daughter, husband, and many of my family members are calling me a jerk, and I'm really not sure anymore. For context, 4 years ago when my daughter was 12, she desperately wanted a pool. She said that all her friends had pools, and she was the only one who didn't have one. Plus, she loved swimming. She insisted that she would use it daily in the summer. My husband and I could afford one, but as I'm sure some of you know, pools are very expensive, and neither of us really liked swimming, so we wanted my daughter to understand the cost she was asking for. We made an agreement that we would install a pool, but that once she was old enough to start working, she would pay us back for half of it. She quickly agreed. Well, flash forward to now. She's 16 and just got her first job, and now she wants to save up for a prom dress she really likes. I reminded her of our agreement about the pool, and she no longer wants to uphold her end of the agreement. I insisted, threatening to take away phone or her car privileges if she doesn't pay her father and I back. Now she won't speak to me. My husband is agreeing with her, saying that we can't have honestly expected a 12-year-old to keep her end of the agreement. For me, this isn't even about money. It's about teaching my young daughter the right morals to live life with. I don't want her to think she can just go around making deals for her benefit and then just not upholding them. Am I the jerk? You got in a verbal agreement with a 12-year-old for thousands of dollars and are now trying to enforce it? Seriously? 4 years later? The right morals to live with are that 12-year-olds cannot legally enter contracts. That's the moral. You're the jerk and just very, very misguided. You made a deal with a 12-year-old for thousands of dollars. Of course you're the jerk. As a parent of 4, there are plenty of ways to teach our kids morals that don't involve forcing a kid to pay for a pool in an agreement she made when she was still in 5th or 6th grade. Side question, if you expect her to pay for half of the pool, will she get a cut of the real estate if you ever sell the house? Having a pool increases the price of a house in real estate, so if she owns half the pool, she's entitled to part of that profit. In other words, you've already seen a return. I'm also upset about the fact that they got a pool that costs thousands of dollars and not just a $300 pool from Walmart or the equivalent. The kid's 12 and wants a pool. It might not be as cool as a built-in ground pool, but it's still a deep pool for a 12-year-old. What mom immediately goes, "Oh yes, let's excavate and build a pool," instead of going to the store and buying a pool? Not the jerk. You make a deal, you stick to it. What you're attempting to do is teach your daughter that actions have consequences and that agreements are meant to be upheld. I'm not surprised at all that everyone here is against you. Their parents failed them, and now they are rooting for you to fail your kids too. These are the same idiots that go $100,000 in debt and get a useless degree, then get mad that they're expected to actually pay it back. How did people become so entitled? Too many handout trophies and everyone is special stickers. Keep being a good parent. Don't let your kid end up like these losers who spend all day on Reddit attacking people who actually have common sense. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their daughter? Please let us know.
I think if most people knew how much work was involved in maintaining a pool, they really wouldn't want one.
Only company projects on company property? Sure. While in college, I had a co-op semester in a shop environment with a small company. My position was a designer with their product development team, and there were not very many tools available to make things. We were expected to produce concept prototypes out of cardstock and Elmer's glue. When our first presentation was met with disappointment since they just hired the new intern to improve the quality of deliverables, referring to me, I decided to do something about it. Over the next couple of weeks, I started bringing in my own tools from my personal shop. I had a whole menagerie of woodworking tools, automotive tools, my welder, and even a couple of 3D printers. I turned their studio area into a respectable prototyping space. The next presentation went very well when we were able to show a very fancy model paired with CAD designs and the associated 3D prints, detailed woodwork, and even bespoke metal details. Everyone was very happy, and I got to work with my own tools at my job. It was good times. Then came the reversal. The company had originally hired me as part of their expansion, and about 2 months after I had joined, roughly a month after I built their shop, the company was finally big enough to hire a single HR person. If you ever had to compete with the mental gymnastics of human resources, I'm sure you know where this is going. One evening, I was staying late to work on some personal projects. My immediate supervisor and everyone I worked with was aware that I did this. New HR lady was not. The day after, she called me in for a chat. It essentially went like this.
Why did you leave so late after clocking out last night?
I was just working on some personal projects.
Okay. Well, you can't use the company's space for personal projects. It is against policy.
Why? It's never been a problem before.
Running a shop costs money, and if that money isn't invested into the company's projects, then it isn't a good use of company funds.
Now, I know the running of a shop costs some money and power, labor, and maintenance, but I was clocked out, and the tools were basically all my own personal tools. So I said, I was clocked out and only using my own tools. The company isn't actually spending anything for me to do my own work.
Regardless, while on company property, you will only work on company projects. If you want to work on personal projects, you must do it in your own shop.
I considered explaining how the shop is 95% all my tools and equipment, but I only had about a month left in my co-op before heading back to classes next semester, and I was planning on taking my tools back by that time anyway. So, cue malicious compliance. I concluded the conversation with HR lady by asking for a transcription of her verdict in an email. I then waited until everyone had left from work the next day, then spent about an hour rounding up all of my tools and putting them in the back of my truck. I took them home and the next day went into work to find my department in chaos. I was immediately called into my supervisor's office and sat down. The supervisor was a pretty chill guy, so he calmly asked why I had cleaned out my stuff. I simply showed him the email from HR lady and explained that if I can only do company projects on company property, then I will also only use my personal property for personal projects. He laughed a bit to himself under his breath, asked me to forward the email to him, and then dismissed me. For the next month, I happily glued pieces of paper together to make simple form models while the entire department fell apart. We were unable to complete promised prototypes for our biggest client, lost that client as a result, and I left the company for good shortly thereafter. If you're going to run a company, it helps to provide your employees the equipment they need to adequately do their job. Am I the jerk for telling my husband he doesn't deserve to be a father? I'm 36, female. My husband, Dennis, is 39, and we've been together for 9 years, married for 4. When we met, we were both looking to settle down and have kids, so it felt like fate that we met. We started talking seriously about having kids around 1.5 years in and started trying at 2 years. After 3 years of trying and heartache, we decided to adopt. Following a long and hard journey, we were finally able to welcome home our beautiful daughter, Sophie. My husband was a wonderful father to Sophie. He loved holding her and being with her. He would rush to her side when he heard her cries. I couldn't have wished for a better partner and father for my kids. Just after everything settled down with Sophie, we got pregnant. Both Dennis and I were elated to hear that we would be having another baby and ecstatic when we found out we were having another girl, so close in age to her sister. But I started getting worried when I heard some of Dennis' comments as I started to show more and we got closer to birth. He once even said, "I can't believe we're finally having our own baby." I questioned what he meant by this as we have Sophie already, but he brushed it off, saying I knew what he meant, but didn't say it again to me. When I gave birth, Sophie was 11 months old and had been saying, "Aim, aim, aim," whenever she stroked my belly, so we decided to call our daughter Amy. When we brought Amy home is when Dennis' behavior really started to slip and lack towards Sophie. He stopped giving her attention, documenting, or even caring about her milestones. He started actively trying to avoid interactions with Sophie. Example, if I asked him to tend to Sophie if she was making a fuss, he would go to the cot and say that he can't as he is tending to Amy. Sophie is clearly being impacted by the sudden loss of her father, so once they were in bed tonight, I asked him what's going on with him. He told me that since Amy was born, his love for Sophie has died. He then retracted and reworded, saying dimmed instead. I was horrified. I told him I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He tried to calm me down by saying that perhaps we could split them. He'll take Amy and I take Sophie. It almost felt like he was making a really crappy joke. I called him a terrible person and told him he didn't deserve to be a father. I told him that I feel betrayed and repulsed by him for using one kid as a trial for the next. He left the house and hasn't come home since. It's snowy here, and it's almost 2 a.m. and I'm getting worried. Edit. Thank you everyone for your words of support and advice. I'm yet to speak properly with Dennis as I'm still seething. I have asked him to stay with his brother until the weekend, when I will have the opportunity to go and stay with the girls at my parents' house. Until then, my friend and sister are taking turns in helping me out at home. Fortunately, or unfortunately, it's likely that divorce is in the cards. I don't see this as something that either Dennis and I or the girls would be able to live with or recover from. Not the jerk. I don't throw around the "you should divorce this guy" line flippantly, but man, in this case, you should divorce this guy. Don't force Sophie to grow up thinking this is what a father's love looks like. Don't do that to her, OP. Won't let me feed the crows from the balcony? Fine. All the birds are coming by at 8 every morning. A year in the making, but oh so beautiful. I love crows. They're my favorite animal, and just so cool and emotive. They're awesome. I started feeding the local couple that were nesting near me, and come winter, the entire flock was coming by every day. I talked with my neighbors, found an agreeable time, and gave them a few bags of things that they like as a thanks for being chill. Everything seemed like it was fine, except my one neighbor, let's call him SD for short, keeps making little comments once in a while. About 4 months in, my landlord comes into my workplace. I rent an apartment above my shop, and yells at me that the crow feeder is attracting rodents. Apparently, the mice in our building are climbing trees and then jumping a 2-meter gap onto our building, climbing to the crow feeder and eating the food in it. This seems unlikely to me. The feeder is only up for 2 hours a day, and I've never seen mice parkour. It comes out that SD complained and fibbed quite a bit in his complaint. Detail after detail keeps slipping. There's a mouse problem in the building. I've never seen one or signs of any, but then again, I've lived on farms and still store my food off the ground, keep a tidy floor, etc. The restaurant next door is complaining about the place smelling like smoke, and SD pointed him at me. Landlord is absolutely convinced it's acrobatic mice making the leap to the balcony. I mentioned to the landlord that my shop smelled like this for the years that I was in it before renting the apartment upstairs, and that I always go outside to smoke. Also that I've lived on farms and in plenty of buildings and have never seen a mouse or rat decide to ignore ground floor entrances in favor of a leap of faith. We go back and forth for a bit. I agree to stop feeding the crows and tell him that without some kind of proof, he can kick stones over anything else. I add that he is never to come into my workplace without specific and declared need again, that I would be saving the recording of our interaction, and that he has, on no uncertain terms, crossed a line by coming into my workplace and raising his voice. After work, I check my suite and shop. No gaps, no holes, no droppings, no signs of mice at all. Knock on SD's door, see what's up. He invites me in to talk. First time I've been in his suite, and suddenly everything makes sense. He has a few birds of his own, has an ashtray he's been using, and the floor is littered with birdseed. Obviously, SD doesn't want the landlord to know he has pets, that he smokes inside, and that he's probably the cause of the rodents. I give zero hoots what he has to say. He had the opportunity to talk to me person to person to find recourse that wasn't putting the target on me. I'm done. So I look up the bylaws for feeding birds, and for peace and tranquility, I called my local council to make sure I wasn't ruffling feathers and got the go-ahead. Every morning I was going out at 8 a.m. and feeding my crows about 10 meters from my front door. Now just the nesting couple again, and there are no complaints. Come October, the entire flock is coming again, and I'm having to up the food amounts. Within weeks, the local seagulls are coming by too. I could rig another feeder to keep them away, but instead, I just up the feed amount to accommodate more birds. Every morning is met with a chorus of birdsong, crow, and seagull birdsong. I personally love it. SD confronts me first. I respond by being sympathetic. Oh, I know. It was way better before someone got the landlord involved. We could agree on a time, be considerate of each other and crap. Now, they gotta be fed and done before 9 a.m., and it has to be after 8 a.m. for peace and tranquility laws. Oh well. Landlord tried next. I texted back that I was feeding them on city property, ignored him until he came into my shop again, yelling again. I recorded the entirety of his rant and asked him if he knew where I was feeding the birds. He did, and then I asked him where the property he was responsible for ended. He left, and I forwarded a complaint to the property management company. Next come my other neighbors, and they get the same treatment. Yeah, it sucks. I miss feeding them at 11 too. But SD got the landlord involved, and now I have to do it on city property. And that means my only window is between 8 and 9. Sucks, man. Oh well. No one's tried to ask me to not feed them. I think they've realized that the crows mean more to me than most things. Also, the crows still chill on the balcony waiting for me in the morning, and I swear have started imitating my "Good morning, buds," if in cadence alone. Male Karen thinks it's wrong of us not to charge his things to someone else's card. Am I the jerk for the way I made my will? I'm in my late 50s and recently found out I have cancer. I have brain mets and things aren't looking too good. I'm taking care of my affair and estate planning when this happened. I'm single, I have no kids and no long-term relationships. My parents passed when I was young, and the only surviving family I have are my aunt and uncle, 2 sisters, and their kids. I'm pretty well off. I started in construction and have a very successful construction business. I'm leaving pretty much everything split between my family. I split a part of the estate to my aunt and uncle, who are both in their late 70s. They don't have any kids, and I would like to leave them something for them to live comfortably. The remaining money I've split equally between my sisters and their kids, 4 in total. My sisters are in their late 40s. Given our age difference and the early passing of our parents, our relationship was a mix of sister-brother and sister-father. I was doing a lot of things our parents would do when they were growing up. I'm very close with them. The problem my brother-in-laws had was the way I structured the money. I have the money invested in a long-standing trust fund. All 6 of them will receive $1 for every $1 they earn. This would essentially double their income. Any remaining money will be available to them after they reach 65 years of age. They also have the option to not use any money and let the investments continue till they retire. Alternatively, if they don't work, they will get no money till they are 65 years old. My nieces and nephews have either started working or are in their final year of college. My reasoning is that I want them to be self-sufficient. I don't want them to rely on this money or get lost in the sudden influx of wealth. I had a recent sit-down with the family to explain things. I didn't want to leave any bitter feelings or cause fights over money after my passing. Everyone seemed pretty accepting until I got a bunch of angry calls and messages from my brother-in-laws. Both of them were calling me a control freak, trying to tell their kids and wives how to live their lives. I'm a bit shocked. I didn't really have such an intention. Am I being a controlling jerk? Edit. To clarify, I'm leaving absolutely nothing for both brother-in-laws. Only for 8 people, 2 sisters, 4 nephews and nieces, 1 aunt, 1 uncle. Your brother-in-laws are looking to cash in on your inheritance to their wives. Looks like you've nipped their greed in the bud. Leave your will as is, otherwise they'll squander your money, leaving your siblings and nibblings with nothing to fall back on. So yeah, not the jerk. Karen, my ex-wife, demands I build her a chicken coop. I, 35 male, divorced my ex-wife about a year ago. We have 2 daughters together and they split time between our houses. Because of this, we still have to talk to each other on a regular basis. When we were married, we got some chickens. She wanted them, but it was a friend of mine that actually gave them to us. The original chickens have since passed, but she still has several. When we got the chickens, I built them a coop and a run. This was several years ago, and she's telling me it needs to be rebuilt. I suggested she get one from the store. She said no, none were big enough and she didn't like any. She wanted me to build one. I said heck no, I'm not doing that. She said I should because the chickens were from my friend, and if I had built it better in the first place, we wouldn't need a new one. She kept bothering me and asking for it, so I eventually gave her a price. The estimated cost of the wood, plus $30 per hour it would take, and an extra $50 for being rude. This was high because building a run and coop takes a lot of time and lumber. It was way more than what at the store would cost. She said I was being ridiculous when I sent her the number. She says we're supposed to be a team working on it, and I shouldn't force the chickens to live in an unsafe coop. I told her she could build one herself. She said she can't afford it. Now she's saying I'm neglecting the chickens and is saying she wants to redo the custody agreement. Now I'm wondering if I should just give her the coop. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Please tell me you have her saying that she wants to redo the custody agreement because of a chicken coop in writing. Not the jerk. Once your wife assumed responsibility for the chickens, they became her responsibility. I would take pictures of the current state of the chicken coop. If she actually wants to use that as an excuse to redo the custody arrangement, your lawyer should use the pictures to point out that your wife insisted on keeping the chickens and allowed their living conditions to deteriorate. You suggested an economical solution would be for your ex to buy a coop from the store. She refused. If you're paying child support, that does not include chicken support. And for that alone, she is trying to drag you back into court to try to change the custody agreement. If she's so readily willing to neglect her chickens out of spite against OP, what else is she neglecting? If the living conditions are that bad, OP could report her to animal control. Handled correctly, OP and his attorney would make his ex look like a total flake and an idiot in court. OP remains rational while X looks foolish and incompetent. If OP has not done so, he needs to start a forget you binder to thoroughly document everything to protect himself. If she's threatening to go nuclear over a chicken coop, she will do it on the other stuff as well. I don't think that she understands how divorce really works. You're the jerk. She's right in saying that you're supposed to be a team. It's really petty of you to refuse to build her a chicken coop just because you two got divorced. She's still the mother of your kids, and the least you could do is build her a chicken coop. Anytime my ex needs something, I just do it for her or buy it for her. That's what healthy co-parenting is. It causes fights when my current wife gets upset with me. She works, but I'm currently unemployed. But it's like I tell her, I'm a package deal. You knew what you were getting into when you decided to marry me. My kids and their mother will always be a priority of mine because that's called maturity. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his ex-wife? Please let us know.
Tell baby mama I'll make her a chicken coop in Minecraft. I've been wanting to play forever.
Entitled mother leaves baby in pram, expects worker to look after it. I worked for a couple of years at a major historic tourist attraction in London. It was good fun and I immensely enjoyed it, although things could sometimes be manic busy, and although most customers were friendly, some could be somewhat unpleasant. Same as anywhere really. It also had some things to do for kids, and while manning these, I came to learn just how entitled and irresponsible some parents can truly be. One of the features in the garden is a maze. It's not particularly for kids, although they can go in if they want, and a lot of them like it. Parents can take pushchairs in if they want, although the staff have a right to make parents leave pushchairs, strollers for Americans, outside if it gets very busy. That day was a hot summer Saturday and had been very, very busy. However, by the mid-afternoon, through flow had thinned out a bit, and I was manning the maze on my own as I had done before. I still had 3 or 4 groups coming through every minute, and I had taken the decision to ask parents to leave their push cars outside the maze. A lady, not particularly Karen-esque, but young and reeking of cheap perfume and entitlement, stalked up to me with her ticket and a baby in a pushchair. I scanned her ticket, but politely told her that she needed to leave her pushchair outside. She scoffed at me and put her pushchair in a line with all the others. Meanwhile, another group of tourists had come up, and I was busy scanning their tickets. I paid little attention to the lady as she walked past. However, as I rapidly scanned through all the new tourists, I glanced at her pushchair and realized the baby was still inside. I quickly ran into the maze, and after only a few seconds, I saw the lady. She saw me and hissed angrily, and this is an approximation of the ensuing interaction. Entitled Mom.
What are you doing here? I've left my baby out there with you.
Me. I know, and you're not allowed to do that. You'll have to come out and take the baby in with you.
But can't you look after him?
My duties in the maze included scanning tickets, selling tickets, advising visitors, and managing the many groups of unruly French, German, and Spanish teenagers on language exchanges. My duties did not include looking after smelly babies. Me. Madam, I'm here to look after the maze. I'm not here to perform babysitting services for you. I have to walk around quite a bit, and I cannot spend all my time looking after your baby. Kids, including babies, are allowed in the maze, but not pushchairs. I'm afraid you'll either have to take the baby with you or leave the maze.
It's the first break from him I've had all day,
she whined. Nonetheless, if you won't come and get your baby, who has been unattended for more than a minute now, I'm going to have to call security, I said, bringing my radio up to my mouth and hovering my finger over the send button. Now, are you going to get your baby, or do I have to call security? I asked. She snorted and angrily marched out of the maze and grabbed the baby, who luckily was still there. In hindsight, I should have just called security and let them deal with it, and not let the baby out of my sight, regardless of what a jerk his mother was. But all was well that ended well. She ended up taking the baby around the maze, and about 20 minutes later, she came to get the, now empty, pushchair. The look of pure hate she gave me would have alarmed the Rock, but luckily off she went, and I was not troubled by her again. You're supposed to always want customers to come back again, but there are some exceptions. She was definitely one of them.
Karen accused my daughter of stealing her AirPods, so I banned her from my house.
I, 40s female, live with my husband, who's also in his 40s, and our daughter, Laura, who's 15. I have a niece, Kelly, who's 26. I'm quite close with my siblings and their kids, but in recent years, I haven't seen much of Kelly, as she's moved to another city that's about 3 hours away. Kelly has been around more often with the holidays coming up, and a few days ago, I hosted a family dinner and she came along. The next day, I get a phone call from Kelly. She's furious and tells me that Laura has apparently stolen her AirPods. I asked her what she's talking about, and she said that she had her AirPods in her handbag in our dining room and that now her AirPods are gone. She said that Laura was acting suspicious and being guilty. I hadn't noticed anything, but there was a bit of unrelated drama going on at the dinner, so I was distracted. I told Kelly I'd talk to Laura, then I'd call her back. I talked to Laura. She immediately denied stealing the AirPods. She said that she's been nowhere near Kelly's handbag and that it's not like she doesn't have her own headphones. I can usually tell when Laura is lying, and she's never stolen things in the past, so I'm pretty inclined to believe her. I know I'm biased because she's my daughter, but I do know her very well. I called Kelly back a few hours later, and I told her that I don't know what happened to them, but Laura has definitely not stolen her AirPods. Kelly insisted that Laura stole her AirPods and starts telling me that me and my husband must buy her a replacement. I told Kelly that that's just not the case and that I'm sure they'll turn up. Kelly even went around telling all of our extended family that Laura stole her AirPods and that she's a liar and a thief and I'm enabling it. The day after that, I get a text from Kelly telling me that she found her AirPods and that they were in her car the whole time. Kelly seemed to think that it was really funny, but I told her that I really do not appreciate that she jumped straight to calling my daughter a thief when she misplaced her own AirPods. I told Kelly she's not welcome back into my home after that stunt that she's pulled. Kelly got really upset and accused me of trying to cut her out of the family and being too harsh on her. Now my siblings are mad at me for banning Kelly from my house and said I'm being horrible and bullying her. Not the jerk. An adult woman accusing her teen cousin without hesitation. She just automatically went for the jugular without any proof. She should be embarrassed, and the family members letting her behavior slide are jerks as well. Not the jerk. Why would you welcome someone into your home who accused your daughter of stealing? Turns her unfounded accusation into a full-blown family drama only to find they had misplaced the item and treat it all as a joke. No thanks. You're just protecting your family from another incident. Not the jerk. Until Kelly has called every person in the family retracting her slander against your daughter and makes a public post proclaiming your daughter's innocence, she can buzz off. I wouldn't trust her in your home for a very long time. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Kelly? Please let us know.
Kelly, Momele, fee, fi, fo, fele, Kelly.
Nice. Following the court order. Over a decade ago, I came home to find I was being moved out by my wife. We weren't in a great place, but I was blindsided. I was also served with a protection order that stated I could not come home without prior written permission. I had to go through my wife to see the kids, etc., and it was in effect for 90 days. I was devastated. A relative connected me with a bulldog of a lawyer. This lady was brilliant and no nonsense. She filed a rebuttal to the protection order, but told me that these things take time and we were unlikely to see a judge before the 90 days were up. She was very clear that I must follow the court order to the letter. If there was any evidence otherwise, I'd be in an uphill battle if or when my wife renewed it. It only took one day before my now ex needed me to take the kids. I had crashed at a friend's house, so I had no place to take them. So we agreed I'd watch them at home. I waited a few blocks away while waiting for an email. Ex called me, and I reminded her of the details of the order and that I wouldn't come until I had permission. This happened twice more that I waited down the street within the first week. So I told her I wouldn't leave where I was staying until I had the email. It was about 20 minutes away. I texted her to remind her. The very next day, she again didn't email. We were planning on me picking up the kids to take them to school since their school was only a few minutes from my work. However, because I had not received written permission, I ran out of time to drive to pick up the kids and then make it to their school and work. She called furious that I wasn't there. I reminded her about the permission and that I was out of time. She ended up being very late to work that day. She then wanted to write me blanket permission to come and go as needed, but my lawyer advised against it. Follow the order. The culmination of this was a few weeks later when she again forgot to send permission. Her boyfriend was staying over but didn't have his car with him. They both had to get to work, and that was the day I learned that he was her direct supervisor. Ex had to call a friend from work to pick up the kids and take them to school, and the friend found out. Of course, it got out at their work. Within a week of that, the boyfriend was fired over their relationship and my ex was suspended. By this time, I had my own place, so the kids ended up staying with me most days. I later learned that the protection order was the boyfriend's idea. Ex was quite mad about it as it turned into evidence that I wasn't a threat to her or the family, and the judge was quite harsh with her over it when we settled for support and parenting time. She called it intentional and harmful parental alienation. Part 2. So, as I said, over a decade ago, my then wife, now ex-wife, began a relationship with a guy and kicked me out of my house. The boyfriend was instrumental in blindsiding me and planning on how to keep me away from my own kids. Ever since, I've kinda hated him. I've always been polite and respectful with boyfriend because he'd become my kid's stepdad, but I swore if I ever had the chance, I'd get back at him. I figured it would almost be something petty, but then he gift-wrapped my revenge, and I've been running with it for almost 3 weeks now. My kids are mostly grown now, some in university, some in grades 11 through 12. The university kids live with me, while the high school still go back and forth with their mom. I'm also remarried now. My wife and I each have our own vehicles, but my wife owns and insures a minivan for when we all are going somewhere together. The kids are free to use it too, as only one has a car. We only have one set of keys, so I put an AirTag on it. It's a little transponder that tracks its location. I put it on there in case the keys were lost. About 3 weeks ago, one of my older kids took the van out for the night, but ended up staying at his mom's on the couch. Around 7 a.m. the next day, another kid asked to use the van. I pinged the AirTag, only to find out that it was hours away in an industrial section of another town. I was quite concerned why my kid was out there. I called him up, and he said he was at his mom's where he said he'd be. He had no idea that the van was missing. I called the police and gave them the location of the van. Within 20 minutes, they had stopped the van, and the driver said he had permission to use it. Lo and behold, it's my ex-wife's boyfriend. The police weren't very interested in detaining him, as it would be easier for him to just drive the van back to our town and we could sort it out here. However, it wasn't his van, nor was he listed on the insurance to drive it. I asked that it be impounded. In Canada, we can't press charges, but I was adamant that this was theft and that I wasn't going to let it go. Since the guy was out of town with no ride, the police did end up detaining him, probably because it was easier. I was given info for the yard where the van was impounded. Since we had the next day off, my wife and I drove out to the yard to pick it up. When we got there, I first checked for damage since it was sitting a little low. Nothing outside. When I checked inside, I found that it was loaded with industrial fasteners and cable. Think seismic mitigation. Turns out, boyfriend used my wife's van to pick up stuff for work. My wife turns on her heels and walks to the office. I had to jog to keep up. She asks who has access to the van. They have the only set of keys, so my wife is assured only her or me. At this point, I get where she's going with this. I instruct them that no one access the van but us. I had $35 with me, so I gave it to them as a tip. They promised me that no one would get in there, and they had actually moved the van into a secured area within the yard. Then we went home without the van. We weren't even home from the long drive when I got the first text from boyfriend about getting the equipment. I explained that we left the van as there were expenses we were not going to pay: towing, impounding fees, daily storage. I told him that he'd have to pay for them before I pick up the van. He was super mad and swore that he would pay me back. I said no way. Within an hour, I got a call from his boss. They need the equipment ASAP for a time-sensitive job. I explained that it was impounded and that I won't have time to get it until next week now, and it has to be paid in advance. Boss swears up and down at me. I calmly explained that I didn't steal a vehicle to transport his stuff. Boss was having none of that, so I said I won't tolerate that mistreatment and I hung up. Then I blocked him and his company on every platform I'm reachable on. And that was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've been able to make excuses for every single time boyfriend tries to arrange picking up the van. Often because the kids don't have the van, so I have to drive them. Boss has gotten through a few times using other numbers and sent a ton of emails that I ignore. But I did reply and explain that both my wife and I need about 4 hours to do the round trip and that it needs to be paid for ahead of time. And it's added up. $25 a day for secure storage, plus towing and impound fees, etc. Plus, I wanted to be paid for the fuel that he used as well as our travel. He and I agreed on the standard 58 cents per kilometer, and so the boss e-transferred us for the total cost of our driving. By now, the van has made one trip and our car is done too. It came to almost $600. So on Friday, it finally happened. My wife and I drove out and picked up the van. It was prepaid and ready to be released. I dropped off a 12-pack of beer at the office when I picked up the keys and went to grab the van. However, I wasn't going to transport boss and boyfriend stuff, so I arranged for it to be held at the yard at the same rate as a vehicle, unloaded it, and left right before it closed for the weekend. I got a call from boyfriend asking when he can come by with a work truck to get the stuff. I told him it's still at the impound almost 2 hours away, and the office opens Monday at 9. There was only silence on the other end, so I hung up after about 10 seconds. Through this, I've been getting vague updates from my ex, who I've got a good relationship with now. She was livid with boyfriend and was clear with me that any and all consequences were squarely on him. He's kept his job, but is missing the next pay increase and is not getting his year-end bonus. Ex said they were too short-staffed to let him go, but he's in the doghouse at home and at work. No word on criminal charges for taking the van, but Crown handles that, and I'm not suing in civil court. Am I the jerk for asking my pregnant girlfriend to pay for or replace my meal because she ate all of it? I, 26 male, have been with my girlfriend, who's 29, for going on 2 years. Before we ever met, she and her sister had been working on her being a surrogate for her sister and her sister's husband. Global things delayed that. We talked about her agreement before we got together, and now she's pregnant for them. She's staying with them for now, but she comes over to my place frequently to spend time with me when she's free. It's not so bad, but either she raids my kitchen or she complains nothing looks good and wanted me to keep some of her for sure cravings on hand. My parents came to visit me and asked me if I wanted them to pick anything up for me on their way. They had to pass one of my favorite restaurants to get here, so I said yes. They showed up, we visited each other. I ate a little bit of what they brought me since I wasn't really hungry yet and put the rest in the fridge for dinner that night. My girlfriend wound up coming over for a bit after they left. She got hungry and wanted a snack and came out with a container I put my leftovers in and goes, "Can I have some of this?" I told her yes. She came back with a plate and she didn't take some of it. She took all of it and put all kinds of crap on it so we couldn't even share. I told her that I said she could have some and she just ate all of what I intended to have for dinner. So I asked her to either send me money to pay for it so I could go get some myself, or she could make the drive and get me another order. She didn't want to drive that far, and she didn't think she should have to pay me for anything. I told her she should, because it would just be nice of her to do, since I get that she gets cravings, but it's not like she's pregnant with my kid or we live together. She left at that point, left half the food uneaten, and I wouldn't eat it because of what she put on it. A couple hours later, my mother called. My girlfriend texted her about what happened. My mom gave me an earful about how I have no idea what it's like for my girlfriend right now, and I need to be supportive and let things go. Wow, you're the jerk. I mean, you're obsessing over this enough to throw a fit and make a post about it here. Just order more food and get over yourself. Yes, she shouldn't have eaten it all, but at the same time, you told her it was leftovers and she could have some. How do we know how much was left? For all we know, it wasn't a lot to begin with. I'm glad it's not your kid. You aren't mature enough to be a father. You're the jerk, because technically, she shouldn't have taken the whole leftover, yeah, blah, 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 I get it. But you're seriously making a totally minor situation into a battle of principles, hurting your girlfriend during a very difficult time, and your comment about it not being your child, so you shouldn't have to deal with the situation, is really selfish and immature. If you care about your girlfriend, you should show some more empathy for her. If you don't care about her and simply find the whole surrogate situation too bothersome for you, then break up with her. You're the jerk. We're talking about some takeout food. You need her to Venmo you for takeout food you didn't even buy that you said she could have? She didn't even eat it all. You just didn't want the rest. She's pregnant. I mean, is this a serious question? Dude, you got issues. Huge issues. Not the jerk. Another day, another story on Reddit where everyone is grilling OP simply because he's a dude. If the girlfriend was the one who wrote this story, you'd all be siding with her. Whenever I want a little taste of good old hypocrisy, I can always count on Reddit to provide it. You psychos never disappoint. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. Lady loses it on a bully customer. I work the self-checkout a lot, and with that comes a lot of mini dramas from people. I'm fine with ringing someone up with the machines. I just ask they have a little patience since there's only one of me. A cute little old lady walks up and asks me politely if I can help her. I say sure. Store is mostly empty and I'm not doing anything. When I start ringing her up, I notice the small box of nails I ring up are $170, which doesn't seem right. Lady, trying to put her card in while chatting to me about cooking. Me, ma'am, don't pay yet. Look at this, is that right? Lady studies the screen. Oh no, it's not. They're not that expensive, are they? Me, no, it's not even the right product. I'm saying these nails are a bar of some kind. Give me a minute and I can key in the right number for you. This is where I started to get a bit flustered. I try keying in the nails she has and something pops up. Try another number. Computer won't accept it. Try scanning again. Bar comes up. Rinse and repeat. While I'm doing this, an older guy comes up on a mobility scooter and sits and watches for a minute. Guy, what's the holdup? Lady, the nails rang up wrong and she's correcting them for me. Me, getting more flustered. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'll make sure you're not overcharged. Lady, very cheerfully. It's okay, honey. Thank you. This made me even more flustered because she was being so cheerful and continuing to talk about her cooking. I think more to cheer me up than anything. Guy starts getting aggravated. What's the holdup? What's she doing? Lady, computer is giving her trouble. Guy, well, I gotta go. I just got one thing. Tell her to just ring something up. Me, I'm sorry, sir. I'm trying to fix this for her. I'm so sorry for holding you up, ma'am. I know you have things to do. Lady, still being very kind. It's okay, sweetie. I can see you're working on it. At this point, Guy just continues to complain and is getting progressively louder while I'm doing my best to help this lady. She can see I'm getting flustered and starts giving this guy the side eye and giving him more clipped responses. Guy yelling now. Hurry up! I gotta go! Lady snaps. Shut up! She's helping me. Stop bothering her. The guy stares astounded at the little old lady, as do I. Lady.
Wait your turn.
Guy angrily glares at me, then her.
Ma'am, I don't want these anymore.
Hands me his batteries, gets up from his mobility cart, and storms out of the store. Me, completely flabbergasted. Lady pats my arm gently.
You don't let anyone speak to you like that, ever, sweetie.
Me, yes ma'am. And I just rang up another set of nails. Lady, cheerful and sweet as ever.
Thank you.
I thanked her again for her help and patience, and she took my hand and shoved $2 into it with apologies she didn't have more before hurrying out. Guys, I cried a bit, just because I wasn't expecting that level of kindness.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Am I the jerk for spending my kids' inheritance, leaving almost nothing to them and my grandkids? I'm 63 years old. I took advantage of better times, financially speaking, and managed to get enough money to save to have a good retirement and leave a good inheritance for my kids. However, their actions in recent years have broken my heart. My oldest daughter is a lawyer, married to an attorney. I have another son who is also a lawyer, a third who became an engineer, and the youngest who is a salesman. I've been a smoker for many years, and the predictable outcome has finally caught me, so I may not have many years left. After knowing this, my kids began going at each other, trying to get their inheritance earlier. Initially, they were frequent verbal discussions that escalated to legal battles. The boiling point came when my daughter forged her brother's signature to take their part of the inheritance while I was being treated at the hospital. Now, none of the siblings can see each other in the eye and only talk through their lawyers. Saddened by this whole situation, I decided to spend the money, thinking that if all of it is gone, they would have no more reason to fight. I donated to charities, bought my wife beauty items, went on vacations with her, paying for the better-looking hotel rooms, no planes because of lockdown travel restrictions, gave my grandkids expensive gifts, bought my dearest friends and colleagues better equipment to improve their work. We bought a huge TV, prepaid for my funeral, tasted some fine whiskey, among other things. Right now, about 65 to 70% of my savings are now gone. I plan to keep enough for the time I have left and leave my wife a good cash amount. However, my kids are noticing that I'm spending a lot and starting to ask questions. My daughter figured out what happened on her own. I had no rebuttals since I'm guilty of all of the accusations she made. But then she mentioned that her kids will suffer because of my selfish acts. Not only that, but so will her grandkids because of me. That made me think that my grandkids shouldn't be punished for their parents' sins, and maybe I was too self-absorbed to realize it sooner. That's my dilemma now. Not the jerk. What did she accuse you of? Spending your money that you earned on a life you wanted? Inheritance is what you get when someone passes. It's not yours. You're not entitled to it. You don't get to dictate what happens until you actually inherit it. You can, until the day you pass, change up who gets what. You got one kid who's not being a jerk, leave it to them. Or leave it to your grandkids in a trust their folks can't touch. You can roll it up and do whatever you want with it. It's yours. You've done nothing wrong, just leave it all to your wife. That's how it should go anyway. And I'm sorry you're at this point, man. The big C sucks, assuming that's what you meant. Karen neighbor is running a business under my bedroom. My husband and I live in an upstairs 3-bedroom flat, and the flat below us is the same layout. The house has been for sale for a while, and recently a woman bought it. It turns out she doesn't have any kids, so I found it strange she bought a 3-bedroom house, but I soon found out it's because she runs a craft business from her home and needs 2 bedrooms to run it. The problem is, unfortunately, she has decided to use the main bedroom, which is below us, as her main craft room. At first, it was fine, as she hadn't fully moved in, but now it's driving me crazy. She's in that room almost all day, and I can hear her walking about and the faint noise of machines. I don't spend long in my bedroom during the day, but when I do go in it, it just annoys me, knowing that she's down there constantly. Like, why can't she have picked the smaller bedrooms, since she knows the kids are at school all day? She always stops using her embroidery and sewing machines by 7 p.m., but she's told me she can sit up until 10 p.m. some nights, finishing off orders, which plays on my mind. I go to bed at 9 p.m., and I can't sleep for hours as I lie there listening for her every move. Just knowing she's awake and walking about drives me crazy, as I find it so selfish someone would buy a flat and work from home. My husband says he can barely hear a thing during the day, and I need to calm down. He also doesn't see the big deal about her using her house as she pleases. Yesterday, I finally had enough and went to her door. I told her how I was feeling about everything and how I can hear the faint noise of her machines. She apologized and invited me inside to show me her setup. All her machines are on some sort of an anti-vibration padding to stop as much noise as possible, so she claims the noise should be minimal and that you need to expect some noise from neighbors. I told her I don't make any noise, and that's when things took a turn, as she said she can hear my kids running around and jumping off furniture all evening, but she would never dream of complaining because it's just one of those things when you share a building with other people. I left before I said anything else I regretted, and I thought that was the end of it. But today, my husband came home from working overnight and asked if I had said anything to the lady downstairs, as she was very cold and blunt with him when he said hello. I told him what happened, and he said I'm a massive jerk. I've spoken to a couple of my friends who think I've handled this completely wrong, and I'm a bit of a jerk for it, but I don't see what else I could have done. You're the jerk. I find it so selfish that someone would buy a flat and work from home? What? She can do whatever she wants in her own home. Or would you rather she sat there in silence on the dole? Can we also acknowledge that OP doesn't even like the idea that the neighbor is awake and using their flat? I'm sorry, what? OP, if you have issues with the mere thought of people living in the space they pay for, maybe you should save up for a single-family home so that you aren't disturbed by people being alive around you. You're the jerk. Yes, a single, childless woman can buy as big of a house as she pleases. Yes, she can use the rooms however she wants, within the confines of any HOA rules and the law. Yes, your kids probably make far more noise than her machines. Have you considered getting anti-vibration padding for them? Yes, you have too much time on your hands if you're constantly obsessing about her crafting. You need to go downstairs and apologize to her, then ask for tips on picking up a hobby. You definitely need one, and she sounds like an expert. Not the jerk. Do you have an HOA or anyone you can report her to? As much as people talk crap about HOAs, when you know how to use them, they can really come in handy. Annoying neighbor mowing his lawn all hours of the day? Reported. Neighbors hoarding ugly broken down cars in their backyard? Reported. I know flats may be different, but I really hope you can report her to someone. Maybe try giving the management office a call. Also, I highly doubt she has the proper licensing to be running a business like this, so there are authorities to report that to as well. Chances are she isn't paying taxes properly either, so a call to the taxing authority might be a good idea. Does she have a business Facebook page you can get on to express your concerns? That's the thing about Facebook business pages. They are a great way to get back at someone. Trust me, I've wreaked havoc on more than a few myself. Ultimately, can people do whatever they want in their house? Sure, but once you're affecting my quality of life, it's time to make you regret it. And don't bother calling me a Karen. My name is Sharon, but I can definitely be a Karen when I need to.
Bruh, these Karens be trippin' though.
Her name's Sharon, not Karen.
Is there really a difference?
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her neighbor downstairs? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for being ungrateful of the cake my boyfriend made me? I, 33 female, have been dating a man, Alex, 34 male, for almost 3 years. Alex has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous marriage that he has full custody of. When we met, Alex was doing very well. He made 6 figures, and he had a decent house in a fine neighborhood. I had a slightly lower paying job. Almost a year and a half ago, his job had to cut some employees, and he was one of them. He had to take on a job, and he earned much less than he had before. I moved into their house 5 months ago. Since I moved in, I've helped with a lot of the bills, usually half or more of them. Yesterday was my birthday. I wanted to celebrate at a nice restaurant near us. However, it was closed. There was another one a little closer to us, although it was more expensive. I suggested going there for my birthday to Alex, and he said that he couldn't afford to pay for dinner there, and if we went, we would need to split the bill. I was a little upset, but he said he would make something himself. The cake I wanted was, admittedly, somewhat expensive. I pointed it out to him, and he said again that he didn't think he could afford it with Christmas coming up, and we'd have to go half. I told him I wasn't paying for a cake for my own birthday, and he said he'd see what he could do. Well, yesterday came. He made dinner, and it was quite good, better than most meals we eat, although not as good as what it would have been at a restaurant. However, when he brought the cake out, it was just something he had made himself. He said he was sorry he couldn't afford the nicer cake, but he had made this one, and his daughter had helped. I pretended to enjoy it, But after, I told him that I was hoping for a slightly nicer cake. He said he had tried his best and he couldn't spend the money he had set aside for bills on a cake. I guess his daughter heard, because now he's also saying that I made her upset after she helped make it. He keeps saying I should apologize to her and say that I really liked it. Am I the jerk?
Bruh.
You're the jerk. Wow, you sound conceited and unappreciative of what you have. I would consider a homemade cake and meal much more of a heartfelt birthday gift than someone spending over $200 on me at dinner. You lucked out with this guy, but be careful because it sounds like you don't realize it, and soon enough, he will end up with someone who does. You're the jerk. A 33-year-old complaining about a cake? When there is a responsible man prioritizing his bills, providing for his kid, and being an overall awesome guy? Sounds like you had no problem when Buddy was making six figures, but now that he's an average Joe, he's below you? Let this man go and sink your claws into the next walking bank account you find. You're the jerk. Either break up and date someone who can afford your tastes, pay for your crap yourself, or be quiet and grateful for what your partner tried to do for you. Those are the options. Instead, you rejected his admittedly very nice meal and the cake he baked for you and made his kid who tried to help make your birthday nice feel like crap. You're 33. Grow up and act like it. Not the jerk. Girl, you deserve so much better. My fiance and I have a clear agreement that if he ever falls on rough times, I'm out the door. You wouldn't stick with an employer who can't afford to treat you right, so why would you stay with a man who can't afford to? I know what I'm worth. If you want a girl like me, 100K followers on Instagram, 60K followers on TikTok, you're going to pay for it. Don't like it? I can replace you in a heartbeat with a man who will treat me like the queen that I am. Like Drake says, know your worth.
Why are some people so disgusting?
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
Some of these stories legit make me upset, and I love it.
Am I the jerk for giving the PS5 my husband bought to my nephew? I'm a 35-year-old woman, and my husband is 37. I discovered the other day he had bought a PS5 as a gift for himself, but the thing is, he used my money to do so without my permission, using a portion of my emergency savings that he had access to, in case of, an emergency. Which I do not believe being able to get your hands on a new video game console classes as. This led to a huge argument, and I took the console away and reboxed it up. I debated on returning it to the shop for the money, but I know my sister has been struggling to find one for my 13-year-old nephew for over a year. So instead, I wrapped it up and took it around to hers and put it under the tree and quietly explained what it was and what had happened. My sister then gave me the money for it. My husband went ballistic, shouting and demanding I go get it back, which I of course refused to do, telling him as it had been bought with my money, it was my choice what happened to it. He is now sulking and refusing to talk to me and acting like a huge baby. Edit. For anyone curious about our money situation and why I'm so angry, we each put half our salary into a communal family fund for the house, bills, groceries, etc. The other half is ours to play with as we want. My husband always blows through his and never saves a penny. Half of my expendable money goes into savings for emergencies as I'm more realistic. Second edit, stating here because of comments. He refused to pay me back as it was an emergency. Third edit, I've emptied the emergency account that he has access to and put it all in my personal account that he does not have access to, including the money I got from my sister for the PS5. Not the jerk. No idea how any sane person can read this story and think, yep, dude was 100% in the right. On the flip side, I have no idea how anyone can stay with someone so incompetently stupid as OP's husband. I get that certain factors play a role in not just instantly divorcing or dumping someone, divorcing being a hassle, kids, etc. But good lord, learn to value and respect yourself. Someone nearing 40 with no ability to save money, steal money for a game console, and categorically refuse to admit fault or apologize deserves no charity. Seriously though, how do people like OP's husband get people to marry and stay with them? I totally get that some partners flip a switch after marriage and become monsters, but there are daily posts on here of people with 6 months into a relationship describing just massive red flags about their partner and still wondering if they are a jerk or not. We need more education in our lives about loving ourselves and not settling with jerks. If you've been with someone for 7 years and they've been lazy and selfish the whole time, nothing is going to change in the future. My 18-year-old daughter refuses to get a job because she's a single mom. I have two daughters, April, who's 18, and Jade, who's 15. I'm a single mom. April and Jade's dad and I got divorced around 13 years ago as he was having an affair. He's never been in the picture for either of our girls after that. When April was 16, she unexpectedly got pregnant. I took her to counseling to help her organize her thoughts and figure out what she wanted to do, and April decided she wanted to keep the baby. The pregnancy and birth went smoothly, and I now have a grandson, Ollie, who's 2. The father is involved, but he and April are no longer together. Ollie stays with his dad every weekend, and the dad's parents give April money to go towards Ollie's expenses. Earlier this year, April graduated high school. She's been taking care of Ollie during the week, but other than that, she hasn't been up to much. She keeps saying that she'll start looking for a job, but she hasn't even started writing a resume. Besides taking care of Ollie, she just sits at home watching TV. On multiple occasions, April has tried to leave Ollie with Jade so that she can go out partying, which has led to huge arguments. Last week, I talked to April, and I told her that she needs to get a job or go to our local community college, and that I'll foot the bill for any childcare she needs for it to happen. I told her she needs to get a job or go to college in order to stay here. April got upset and said that she doesn't want a job or to go to college. She said she just wants to be a mom. She told me it can wait until Ollie starts school. I told her no, and that she needs to start something so that she can support herself and be an independent adult. April said I'm being unreasonable and that these things can wait until Ollie is in school full-time. She said that I'm asking her to damage him and that he needs his mom. It's not that I don't want April and Ollie here. I love them both. I just think I'd be setting a bad precedent by allowing April to continue to stay with me with no job and no education in the making. You're the jerk. That's basically teen mom territory. You should be supporting her. That's an extremely hard situation to be in. If you're capable of supporting her, you should. As a toddler mom myself with no job or schooling, objectively, you're the jerk. I would hate to be told I either had to sacrifice my time with my still developing kid in the most crucial years of their life or move out. But I also have tried to look for jobs, and my mom told me to stop before I got pregnant. She has never pushed me to do anything like that. She's encouraged it, but never with ultimatums. Yes, you're the jerk 1 billion%. Parents are meant to 1. Set the example for their kids, 2. Be there for their kids. She's barely a legal adult. Her brain won't fully develop until she's about 25, and you're telling her she needs to be a single mom with a job, or go to college, or she gets the boot? She needs community and support. She's become a teenage parent during the middle of a lockdown. She doesn't need your lack of parenting making her life worse. An entire you're the jerk and forget you for that. That's straight up abandonment. You're the jerk. You sound exactly like my mom, the woman who got my kid taken away. My mom hounded me every day about getting a job because she forgot how stressful it is being a young mom for the first time. Every time I tried to do something as simple as play a video game while my son was in his crib, my mom would flip out. She threw a fit every time I wanted to go out with friends or, God forbid, go on a date. My psychotic mother's treatment of me led to me majorly resenting my kid to the point where I would leave for days on end and just block her number. She decided that instead of showing me support and being a loving grandmother, reporting me would be a better option. The state decided I was unfit to be a parent. Gee, you think? I was 19. Maybe my mom could have been an actual, grandma? I feel so sorry for your daughter, and I hope she goes no contact with you, since you're nothing but an unsupportive jerk.
Reddit, the internet's official worst place to seek parenting advice.
Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or their daughter? Please let us know.
Please never seek parenting advice from Reddit. I can't think of any worse place.
Am I the jerk for letting my sister's kids live with me? I, female 50s, have a sister who's in her 40s who sees herself as a my family lives in a camper van Instagram influencer. In 2020, she, her husband, and their 4 kids moved into a camper. They homeschool the kids, travel all over the US, etc. They come to visit for holidays, but we don't see them besides that. My husband and I are the opposite. We have 4 kids and live in a big, beautiful house in Colorado. So the issue. My sister and her family came over for Thanksgiving and spent the night. My sister's oldest, 13-year-old twins, a boy and a girl, slept in my daughter's and son's rooms. In the morning, my niece and my sister got into a big argument, with my niece being incredibly angry at her mother for making her live in a camper when she could have so much more space, not have to share so much with her brothers. They all sleep in the same area, and be able to have more clothes, friends, and extracurricular activities. I asked what was going on, and according to my sister, this has been an argument for a while. Money is not an issue. They had a huge house before and sold it for a massive amount of money. My sister has a trust fund and a job. She just likes living in a camper. After a brief conversation with my husband and my kids, we offered, in private to my sister, to take my eldest niece in. We have extra guest rooms and could make one a bedroom for her. There are great schools in our area. We'd pay for everything for her, etc. She instantly said no, that she knew what was best for her daughter. She would miss her siblings. We didn't mention it again. Well, my youngest, she's 13, told my cousin about the offer. She was very happy, but angry that her mother hadn't brought it up to her. She told my sister that if she made her come live in the camper again, she'd never do anything her mother wanted, because it was unfair that her mother wasn't letting her have a true childhood. While I don't condone tantrums like that, I understand where she was coming from and helped convince my sister. When her twin brother found out, he wanted to stay too. My sister asked him what she was supposed to do without them. How was she going to care for the younger siblings without them? Talking about missing out on family trips, etc. But nephew didn't change his mind. We agreed to a trial period, 3 weeks, which ended 3 days ago. My sister came back, fully expecting her kids to want to come back with her, but they flat out refused to even go in the camper. My sister is very angry. She said that I was supposed to make them want to live with her and that I'm a horrible sister for treating her like this. She said I should kick them out, and I said no. She said that I'm a massive jerk and told her kids to not expect her to come back for them when they get tired of maximalism. Now her kids are sad, but they still don't want to leave, and I'm worried I've ruined my relationship with my sister. Am I the jerk? Edit. I've been told that the technical name of the vehicle I'm referencing is a motorhome. It's one of those large, house on wheels things. I thought that they were called campers since that's what my sister always calls it. Edit 2. Someone in the comments mentioned I should add this here. We have temporary guardianship signed by my sister. Her husband came over after they left, and we filled out the power of attorney forms, got the things we need to put them in school, etc., and he took them back and had her sign them, so we should be all clear. My brother is an attorney, and he helped us with the forms as well. I can see why your sister may not like it, but I don't think the camper van life is suited to all. The idea of it would be horrifying to me, both as an adult and a teenager. And I suspect a lot of 13-year-olds would want to have friends and hobbies that aren't just online. You brought up the idea in private, which was a good way to approach it. It's a shame your daughter wasn't able to keep it private, but truthfully, I think she did the correct thing. Your sister asked them what she was supposed to do without them? This sounds like parentification, which is not a good thing for the twins. They should be living the life of teenagers, only helping to look after younger siblings if they're paid babysitters, and only for a few hours a week, if they want extra money. You're not the jerk. I thought that after the first paragraph, and the rest just confirmed it for me. Not the jerk. Your sister sounds selfish and like a lunatic. She wants to live this way, but her kids don't. They need a stable home, friends, family, and education. Living like nomads is not something most kids can do. End of the day, you are helping your niece and nephew out. You're not beholden to your sister or supposed to do anything but help the kids. Yeah, you strained your relationship with her, but that relationship is not worth the health of these kids. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her sister? Let us know in the comments below.
Oh, how I hate moving. I can't even bear the thought of moving every week or so living in a camper.
Entitled stepson expects me to pay for his college. I'm 49, female. My daughter, Katie, who's 17, is graduating high school this spring and was just accepted to her first college last week. I share Katie with her father, my ex-husband, Will, who's 52. But I've been married to my husband, Brian, who's 49, for about 6 years. Brian has a son, Nick, who's 16, who's a junior at the same school as Katie. Brian has full custody of Nick, while I share custody of Katie. Will and I divorced fairly amicably when Katie was young, and we've grown into strong co-parents. Will's family come from substantial money, so as part of the divorce, we agreed that he would be responsible for the tuition and dorm bill for Katie's college, and I would pay for the other miscellaneous living expenses. I've saved enough to pay for these expenses, but I know that if something were to happen to my savings, Will or his family would be able to foot the entire bill for Katie's living expenses without any changes to his lifestyle. Will and I decided to sit Katie down and show her the whole picture of what college costs and what we will pay for. Brian thought it would be a good idea to have a similar conversation with Nick, even though he's just a junior. Unfortunately, the financial situation for Nick is different. Since his mother is not in the picture, it's been on Brian to save for Nick's college. Brian was able to save, and I have also contributed a bit, and he has about enough saved for a full associate's degree or half a bachelor's degree at an in-state public college without living expenses. We didn't openly discuss the specifics of the different finances with each kid, but did broadly say that we had different opportunities due to situations outside of their control. Nick has since surmised that his situation is very different from Katie's, and his choices will be much more impacted by finances than hers. Nick came to Brian and I very upset over the weekend. He said that it wasn't fair that Katie got to go anywhere she wanted, and he specifically was upset that Katie would not have to pay for her own room and board. He then asked that if Katie gets into a school with scholarships, if he could get the difference in tuition for his college. Or he said that I should contribute the savings I had for Katie to his fund to try and make it more fair, since Will could make up the difference easily. I kindly told him that no, I wouldn't do that, and that I'm really sorry about this situation. Then I told him that unfortunately, sometimes them's the breaks in life, and that we will do our best to make sure that whatever college he decides to go to, that he can make the most out of the opportunity, even with loans. Nick was obviously upset at this, and Brian thinks my response to his asking made me a bit of a jerk, even though I shouldn't have to change any of the agreement. I feel like I'm going crazy, but am I the jerk? ETA. I had condensed this post for character limits, but wanted to add a bit about the actual conversation. This was the follow-up conversation to the longer one my husband had with him about how much money we were able to contribute to college, so he already knew the specifics of what we had saved for him. I'm trying to be as objective as possible. Our follow-up was a conversation that was over 10 minutes long. Most of it was saying that we were sorry about how this situation impacts him and that it's really difficult seeing people close to you get opportunities you can't have. I did not default to them's the breaks, but then yes, I did say those exact words. I must be older than I thought, after Nick got increasingly angry and frustrated. I didn't intend to be callous, but I love Nick and I will apologize for being unkind and make sure to repeat the things Brian told him about the fund in the first place. There are so many options for you, and we are excited to support you to make whatever future you want happen for you. I would say a soft you are the jerk for being so flippant about it. Your son is upset because he's staring down the hole of student debt. You could have empathized and sympathized with him and instead decided to take the heartless route. The world is cold enough. Kids don't need the same attitude from their parents. The tone of the post also feels like OP doesn't care about her stepson at all, even since she's been in his life since he was 10. She just told him to go get loans. Would be a pretty big slap in the face. I don't get that at all. OP has contributed to her stepson's college fund, though we don't know how much. It's still better than most people who come here. Then her stepson wants to take what OP has contributed to her daughter's fund? Kid needs to get out of the entitlement mode. Life ain't fair. And just because someone has the ability to pay for someone else doesn't mean that they have to. I also didn't read it this way. Blended families are hard and come with weird gray areas. One area that is black and white is whether all the grown-ups involved love the kids who are there. From OP's post, I felt she does love her stepson, but also the finances are just different, and placing more onus on Will, who is not a part of this family dynamic, is unfair. Did you literally say, them's the breaks? Because I can see how he's taking that as a jerk thing to say. While it's true that not everyone gets equal opportunities and starts out with the same assets in life, saying them's the breaks is a dismissive, uncaring way to say it. The message isn't wrong, but the delivery was so bad it obscured the message. So you're the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her stepson? Please let us know.
Of course the entitled kids on Reddit are gonna side with the entitled kid. Like it or not, them's is the breaks. Deal with it.
Am I the jerk for not allowing my sisters to come spend Christmas with me and my family? I, 29, male, am my parents' only child together. My dad, 55, male, had an affair which resulted in a pregnancy and my mom left him over it. The woman had twin girls, Bella, who's 19, and Amy, who's also 19, and I deeply resented all three of them for many years. With time and therapy, I was able to let go of most of my anger, but I will never be close to Bella and Amy, and just opted to be polite whenever I saw them or their mom. It's a tragic twist of almost laughable karma, and it was revealed that the woman my dad left my mom for wasn't as true to him as she led him to believe, and that Bella and Amy weren't his. It got nasty and they divorced when Bella and Amy were 16. My dad agreed to still be a part of Bella and Amy's lives at the time, and so opted for 50-50 custody. However, after a health scare, Bella decided she wanted to find and reach out to her biological dad. And while my dad wasn't happy about it, Bella soothed his worries when she stated that it would only be for medical purposes, as she had no desire to have him in her life. My dad helped Bella find him, and they had a meeting, and never said anything about it again. Unfortunately, it was revealed that Bella lied and was still seeing her dad in secret, and Amy eventually joined her. My dad wasn't happy about it, and there was an argument, but when Amy brought up how it was their right to see their dad, something in my dad snapped. He got quiet and told the girls that they were right, and when Amy and Bella left to spend their summer with their dad and his family, my dad put the house up for sale, moved all of Amy's and Bella's things to a storage unit, deleted his social media, and changed his number. My dad sent a letter to Bella and Amy to their mom's place explaining what he had done and that they had 30 days before he cut off all financial support, college funds, phones, etc., saying that since their biological dad is so important that he can be their father fully. My dad hasn't spoken to the girls since, and his side of the family is on his side, thinking that Bella and Amy are ungrateful and just as disrespectful as their mom. Bella and Amy have reached out to me to help them see and talk to my dad again, but I don't want to get involved, nor do I even know where to find him. We just call, text, or FaceTime each other. My father finally reached out asking if he could come spend Christmas with me, my wife, our daughter, and my wife's parents, and I agreed. I'm not sure how, but Bella and Amy found out and told me that they were going to come over too. Not ask, but told. I said no. I know that eventually my dad is going to have a talk with Bella and Amy, but I don't want that drama at my house during my daughter's first Christmas. I told my dad about Bella and Amy, and he said that he had told them everything he needed to in his letter, and he has no desire to talk to them. I told Bella and Amy that they are not welcome, and they, along with their family and friends, are calling me the jerk. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This is not your circus. These are not your monkeys. You have no biological or familial relationship with Amy or Bella, and you're not obligated to provide the forum for them to have whatever conversation they believe they need to have with your father. Not the jerk. Those aren't your sisters. You are not obligated to let them in your life. Ignore them. Their mother was the first jerk for lying, and then they became jerks for sneaking and lying to your dad. That's his issue to deal with, and if he said he's done, then he's done. Don't get involved, and don't let them in your house. Their mother is the second jerk. None of this would have happened if OP's father didn't choose to have an affair. He's the first jerk. Yeah, the dad is a major jerk. 1, he had an affair, left his first wife. 2, decided to stay in the twins' lives, but gatekeep whether they can have a relationship with their biological dad. 3, disappeared into the night, leaving the girls without the father figure they had their whole lives because they displeased him and cut them off financially with no warning. It's like he's allergic to responsibility. Anyway, OP, not the jerk, but I would really rethink having a relationship with your dad. He seems to make nothing but messes for the people around him. Not the jerk, but let me tell you something. I have a feeling they're going to show up anyway. Is there any way you can change the venue? Not related to judgment. I had to laugh at your dad's karmic justice, but I also will say he's being a jerk to them about it. I get that he's hurt, but they have a right to find their biological dad, and they shouldn't be punished for it. What he did was stone cold. Management says I can't wear scrubs in healthcare. So about 10 years ago, I, 35, male, became a CNA, certified nurse's aide, and worked at an assisted living facility. In many of these types of buildings, corporate does not want the nursing home, so they make their nurses and CNAs wear business casual clothes. The place I was at required us to wear a collared shirt and khakis or black pants. Now, I'm a 6'3" male, on the skinnier side, that's been told my legs are so long I look like I'm walking on stilts. That being said, finding khakis isn't easy and I usually need to custom order them, which can be pricey. Also, I'd like to note that this building had hard carpet everywhere, and I would end up kneeling down to help tie shoes or do other things while helping out my residents, and ended up blowing out the knees on my khakis often. On the malicious compliance. One day, management says that we were allowed to wear appropriate yoga pants that were either black or khaki, with no reason given. This does nothing to help me and my holy khaki situation, as I was making $12 an hour. Custom ordered pants were very expensive to me. So I decided I was gonna buy black and khaki scrub pants because they're cheaper and more durable. I go on wearing them for about a week without issue when management calls me in and states that the policy is no scrub pants and I would be written up if I do it again. I try to explain the financial situation, that each pair of khakis were costing me most of a day's wage and the knees would wear out quickly. They respond with, "Tough crap, no scrubs." I then grab the flyer they posted about yoga pants and start to make the case that if yoga pants are allowed, which are much cheaper, I should be able to wear scrubs. Again, they say, "No, it's not the same." At this point, I look down and see the wording on the flyer is, "As a thank you for your hard work, management has decided to allow all nursing staff to wear appropriate yoga pants if they would like. No gender noted, just that they must be black or khaki and not low-cut." Cue the malicious compliance. I go home and tell my girlfriend at the time about this and ask her for a pair of her black yoga pants. Just an FYI, she was barely 5'3", and when I tried them on, they barely went past my knees. The next day, I walked into work proudly sporting the high water yoga pants with my hairy calves, stilt-like legs, and on the back they had the word "juicy." I made sure to tuck in my shirt so everyone could revel in my glorious bony self. 1 hour into my shift, when management gets there, I instantly get called into the office with my boss and HR. "OP, what are you doing? You are not wearing the correct uniform and we will need to send you home now." I grab the flyer and point out that nowhere did they ever say that this was only for women, and they also don't say anything about the length on it. I then say that they are at the appropriate height, put my pants on my hips, do a 180 to show them off, and smile at them looking over my shoulder. Boss, "That's not the point, OP. You know what we meant." HR, "Actually, that is the point. He's right. You did say nursing staff could wear these, and they fit the criteria you put in place." Boss has a wicked scowl on her face, knowing she got beat, but then pauses and laughs. "Okay, fine. You can wear scrubs. Just no more yoga pants. I've already heard the residents talking about your pants more than I'd like. Go home and change, though." For a long time, I got teased by a bunch of the 85-year-old women about when I was gonna be showing off my juicy self again, but at least I got to wear scrubs. Am I the jerk for putting my son's comfort over my girlfriend? I, 34 male, have a 16-year-old son. My son is paralyzed from the waist down and has been since he was 8. A year ago, I got with my girlfriend who's 34. I live in an apartment right now, but it's not the most accessible. For example, the sink in the kitchen and bathroom have cabinets underneath, so he can't really use them without being in an awkward position. Also, the stove is too high for him to use it safely. He can't reach most of the dishes if they were in the higher cabinets. The shower is also really small, and his shower bench barely fits. I've tried to rearrange this to make them easier for him, but it's still hard. 2 days ago, I started getting a house built for us. For most of his childhood, I've struggled financially, but I was finally able to afford to build a house accessible to him. I showed my girlfriend a plan of the house when we first started dating, and she said it looked fine. We went to go see the progress a few days ago, since it's almost done, and we're almost ready to move in. When we got there, she mentioned how the stove and sink were too low. My son can't do much in the kitchen because of his paralysis, but he loves to help. Having the stove accessible will help him have more independence, and he can start learning himself, which he's really happy about. Our stove and sink has a little space under it, so he can slide his wheelchair in to cook, and is low enough so it's like a table, if that makes sense. The oven and microwave are also low enough for him. My girlfriend says it'll be uncomfortable for her to cook at. I told her that she can pull up a chair and sit if that's better, but she refuses. She says she doesn't want to live with me if she's going to be uncomfortable forever. She also says that my son will move out in a few years, so we don't even need to spend all this money on a house. I told her that we could renovate some things after he moves out, but she doesn't want to wait that long. I said if it was a problem, she could figure something else out to make her comfortable or leave. Some people are telling me I was too harsh, but I'm tired of people complaining about accessibility to disabled people because it inconveniences them a little. But I want to know if y'all think I was actually wrong and should I have handled this differently. Run. Run as fast as you can from this woman and never look back. And for the love of God, don't make a baby with her. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Your son's ability to use features in his own home is more important than your girlfriend's comfort. Good job on being a great dad on this one. Not the jerk, dude. Your girlfriend needs a reality check. Where does she get the gall to say that your son's accessibility is less important than her inconvenience? Also, what world does she live in where kids will pack up and leave the moment they turn 18? Where exactly are they gonna go with housing and cost of living in general skyrocketing? You're the jerk. As a woman who's been in a similar situation with my ex-fiance, you are totally in the wrong. She's going to be marrying you and spending her life with you at that house. He is your son who will be leaving the nest soon. Men need to put priority on the woman they expect to spend the rest of their lives with. Like, how do you have the gall to expect her to stay with you when you make it obvious she's not a priority? This is what my ex did to me, but it was in regard to his daughter being blind. He focused on it all of the time and treated her like a baby. She was 14 at the time. As a result, I found a real man who makes me a priority, and my loser ex is still single. I saw him at a bar recently, so I made sure to have lots of makeout sessions with my new man just to show X what he's missing out on. I'm pretty sure it worked because he eventually got up and just walked off. Jealous much? You chose your sad life by putting your brat over me. Now deal with it. Hopefully he's getting the therapy he always needed. I swear, the guy was a narcissistic psycho who thought the world revolved around him and his daughter. Karen loses it over the Baby Yoda socks I bought her for Christmas. For Secret Santa, I got Sarah, who put down a bunch of books that she wanted, as well as other things like socks, tea, and candy. I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because I really like to shop for people and give really cool gifts, and these were just a bunch of blah things. When I looked up all the books to get her, I found out that they were all romance novels. I felt kinda cringe buying her romance novels, so I looked at the common themes and found a really good fantasy novel to buy her instead, called Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. It has a romance in it too. I figure if she likes to read, then she'd be happy to broaden her horizons and branch out. I also got her some Baby Yoda socks to go along with it, because who doesn't like Baby Yoda? And some Bigelow tea that looked good. We did the exchange this morning, and she looked visibly confused when she opened hers. She changed her face to be surprised/happy, but this really bothered me. In the break room later, I heard her talking and complaining that she didn't get why someone got her these things. The other person said they were probably upset they got a woman instead of a man, which I thought was rude. I'm a woman too. I'm just not the pumpkin spice latte and Hallmark kind. Then after, I saw her give the socks to someone else, saying they could have them for their kid. I was honestly really bothered by this. I put thought and effort into a gift. Am I the jerk for getting her something to branch out of the humdrum romance genre and Baby Yoda socks? I thought everyone liked Baby Yoda. Yes, you're the jerk. But you will probably never understand why, so there's not much point in this. Still, I'm going to say it anyway. What the heck is your problem? Why do you feel it's your job to shame people for what they like? She literally put what she wanted on a sheet of paper, but you decided you knew better. Of course she was disappointed. The whole point of putting things you like down when doing these things is so people can receive something they actually want, instead of some dumb stuff that they don't even want. Congratulations on wasting your money and disappointing someone for no reason. Maybe next time stop being condescending and let people enjoy things, or don't participate. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her coworker? Please let us know.
If I hear the words Baby Yoda one more time.
Am I the jerk for not believing my daughter's knee was hurting? I have a 15-year-old daughter, and my husband is currently out of town. I have a lot of projects that need to be done in my yard, and I really needed her help. On Friday, she told me her knee was hurting after her run, and she was limping. I told her, "It's funny how your body always seems to malfunction when I need your help. You can just stay in bed all day if you want." Because it's true. She has a history of feigning ailments in order to get out of doing things she doesn't want to do. She hasn't done it much since she was around 9, but I still have trouble trusting her when she says something is wrong. She said she would help me, and I told her we could take her to an emergency room if her knee still hurt by the time the yard work was done. We worked the whole weekend, and she complained a lot, but I was almost certain that she would magically be better by the end of the weekend. This morning, though, she said her knee was hurting badly and she could barely walk, so I took her to the emergency room. It turns out she sprained her knee. I had told her to tell them that it only started hurting today, but she said it started hurting Friday, and I was questioned. Fortunately, nothing bad happened, but they said that due to how much she's had to use her knee after it was injured, it will take longer to recover. I decided to keep her home from school today because I don't necessarily want her telling people that I had her doing yard work when she told me her knee hurt. They wouldn't be getting the full story or context, and she has a tendency to exaggerate when I do something wrong. I do feel slightly guilty, but I told her that this wouldn't have gotten to the point it did had she not had this history of lying. She is upset with me. She told me that she was in terrible pain all weekend and that she couldn't believe I didn't trust her. She doesn't seem very interested in talking to me, but I feel like this is partially her fault for creating a situation in which I couldn't trust her. Am I the jerk for not wanting to apologize? You're the jerk 1,000,000%. The full story she'd be telling is that you made a crappy assumption about her, forced her to go an entire weekend without necessary medical care, and that you tried to get her to lie to cover up your negligence. All because when she was a literal kid 6 years ago, she had issues with lying. Yeah, I can see why you don't want that getting out. ETA. Also, you suck for pretending to be so morally outraged at your daughter lying to you in years past, which is, actually pretty developmentally normal for kids to do. But then asking her to lie for you to the doctors. Gross. Clearly, you're fine with it when it benefits. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.